And welcome to the Mouthpiece Moment podcast. It's been a couple weeks, but that's because your boy got married. That's right. Put a band on it, homie.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
On this episode, my brother from another mother, but also my brother-in-law, and best man, Paul Vasquez. How you doing, big dog?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm feeling great. It's over. I don't mean that in a mean way, but just a little background information on our wedding. We were supposed to do it next year in May, and so we had several months to plan it out, almost a year, and then Rocio decided, and I'm glad she did, I'm not complaining, but she decided she wanted to have our wedding like on November 11th, so 11/11/22, and it was like the end of August or early September, so it was like everything got squished together. And obviously, like, you and Alicia is Rocio's sister, you and Alicia like just were like, okay, well, guess we got a bunch of work to do. So we all just the four of us and Beto and Elena, shout out to them.
Yes.
They're the our some of our best friends that live in Long Beach. They allowed us to have the wedding at their house. So they did a bunch of work too. They built some stuff. They cleaned a bunch of stuff. They spent that whole 2 months working on getting the wedding set up, and it was a real good time. But it was just 2 months of stress because it's like, you got your regular stuff, work, kids, taking them to school, all that stuff, and then on top of that, every day you're like adding a little bit to like a few things here and there to get the wedding done. And so I just want to obviously thank you guys again for all the help you did, because I mean, it's, for me especially, it's nice to have like people around you that you can rely on, and that aren't like, because I always feel like whenever I ask somebody for help, I'm like, fuck man, I'm inconveniencing them, like it's gonna bother them. I get this guilt trip, and I'm so against guilt, so it's weird that it's still there. But that's what happens. I just get all guilty, and I'm like, motherfucker, like.
But we talked before, and it was a good stress for me.
Just to get it was, and I think part of that was, I mean, would you say it was just because it's been a rough year? You think that's why?
Probably rough year, but then again, I was hanging out with my brothers. It was you,
Yeah, that's
Beto,
true.
and we get to hang out
And when we hang out, I mean, Beto, I mean, you guys, I gotta have Beto on this podcast. Like, I hope that he's either listening or watching this, because for those of you that are listening and not watching, this one's gonna be, it's actually being recorded on cameras now. So, Beto is the fucking man. Like, Beto's like, I wish Beto would adopt me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's
next level.
he's just this awesome man that he can do anything. He just takes like pieces of wood and creates a boat. And you're just like, what? You created a boat? And it was funny too, is we had to set up some tents, like some not pop-up tents, but what would you call it? Canopies,
yeah.
like big steel frame canopies. And so like I had to buy one from, like, last minute, bought one from Harbor Freight. We got lucky. And so I was like, all right, we'll open up the box. And like, I'm not very handy, like, that, but there's a lot of other people that don't know me, but I'm not handy. I'm not a handy person. I didn't grow up that way. Like, anytime I grabbed a broom or a screwdriver, I got yelled at for doing things the wrong way. So I just stayed away from it. It's like this traumatic thing where I'm like, I don't want to fuck up, so I don't even want to get started. And whenever I'm around you and Beto, I'm just like, I'm like a little boy. Like, I'm just this little kid who's in the way. I just feel like the kid who they're like, just hold this thing and go stand against the wall. And you guys are so nice. And especially Beto. Like, Beto will walk me through each thing step by step.
Yeah,
like, and he doesn't have to. He could just do it and it's done. But he's like, all right, this dude doesn't know what he's doing at all. So I'm going to, like, give him. He talks to me like, like I'm a kid. He's just like, right here. And I don't mean that in a way where he's like he's making me feel bad or anything. Right. It's more like he's trying to help me. He's like, all right, man, you don't know what I'm doing, let me show you. And when we were putting up the canopies, it's funny because I'm looking at the instructions, and this motherfucker's already this guy's like already like setting things up on the floor. He just looked at what it's supposed to look like. Yeah. And I should say this, he has two very similar canopies, so I get why it's easy, but still, like instructions were out of the question. He was just like, well, you don't need that shit, I'll figure it out. And so we put it up. That was like way earlier, but the whole 2 months was just stressful, like, and we got through it, and the wedding day was awesome. Like, it's funny because I'm not like, I don't like the attention of that. I don't like, hey, like, I don't like it's your birthday attention. I don't like, oh, it's because it's a wedding, and I know that the one thing is, I feel like Rocio and I are very good hosts. Like, we're good at hosting a party. We enjoy it. because at least it's not, the attention isn't on us, it's on the party. It was our wedding, so for me, I'm like, oh, I gotta be all like peppy and smiley, and I mean, luckily there was nothing but good people around, great people around, so it wasn't too hard, but I don't like that attention, so I was already kind of like going into it like, this is gonna suck, and at least a little bit. I knew I was gonna have a good time, but I knew that there was part of it that I'm gonna have to just be, you know, extra nice and be like, keep the smile up, and because I was stressed out, that's what made me feel all these feelings, all these thoughts, like, oh, this is gonna suck. It ended up being like super fun, but so we set it up. The actual ceremony was during the day. It was like a 1 p.m. kind of thing, and that was just for pretty much Rocio's family and like a couple of her really close friends. Like I didn't invite everyone to that. I didn't really invite anyone to that because it was just supposed to be a quick thing, and then we were gonna head out to take pictures. And the funny thing was we had a few like mess ups, a few like mishaps that were just funny. I'm like, I couldn't wait to tell on the show. But obviously you were there for them. But I know that it's just a funny story to tell. It's like we had the people in the house like, hey, can you play this song when Rocio walks down the aisle? And Rocio was very clear, she didn't want me to see her at all until she was walking down the aisle. So I stayed away. I stood on the opposite end of the property, just kind of hanging out, waiting. And like, it's time to go. So I'm up at the altar, which, by the way, Beto built. Like, we helped him, but it was literally, he built it, we helped him. He measured everything out. He cut the wood. He has all the tools you could possibly need, and then we just basically held things for him, and he was the mastermind. He built an altar for us, and so that was pretty cool. Just seeing how it turned out. He stained it and everything. It looked so cool, and I was like, wow. I didn't think I would have like care that much about it, but because it was somebody doing something for me and out of love and just trying to make sure that things went well. Good. It looked really nice to the point where they still have it. They use it as like a decorative piece in their backyard because it looks cool.
It does.
But we were going down I'm at the altar just waiting, and Rocio the music plays, and like Rose was the flower girl, which was awesome. She looked so cool and just gorgeous. And then Dominic was the ring bearer. And he's such a wild card. Like, if people don't know Dominic, like, he's got really, really crazy ADHD where like it's out of control at times. And when he doesn't want to do something or he's scared of something, it's like life or death. So it's always a toss up whether or not he's going to handle what you need him to handle. And so I was just nervous that he was going to walk and be like, I don't want to do this, and just freak out or just be all mad and make faces. And he sucked it up, and he's usually like pretty good in public. So that was what I was sort of banking on. Like, hopefully,
I expected the freak out, but I was surprised he didn't. He handled his business. I was surprised how much and how quickly and well he did it. And
he actually helped Rose out too. He was like, keeping her on track. Like, he actually did the big brother thing, and I was like, and maybe it's just one of those things where it was like he knew that it was the right thing to do, or maybe he just felt like, hey, the pressure's on, I better just handle this, and because it sounds mean, it sounds rude, but like, it sounds, I mean, not rude, but it sounds bad. But I'm like, he doesn't think about us like, oh no, this is my parents' night or my parents' day. That doesn't cross his mind. What crosses his mind is, do I want to do this? Should I do this or not? It's not other people. It's all about him.
Yeah,
that's just how it is. Like, we're slowly chipping away at it. But anyway, so they're walking down the aisle, and it's just like, oh, you feel that feeling like, oh, my kids, it's my wedding. I see my kids, my loves, And they opened the gate a little too early. There was a gate that was like, she was supposed to come through a gate. So to make sure that like she was blocked off. And they opened the gate early because someone else was walking through. Like, I don't remember if it was like a last minute straggler. So they opened the gate and they told her to go out early. So I saw her like way earlier than I was supposed to. And I was like, well, there goes that. And I look at her face and I can see she's like, oh, like all excited. Her dad's got her by the arm. She's just, oh, in the background. And I was like, oh, that sucks. I mean, I don't care, but I know she cares. Like, this whole thing is, I know she cares. So let's make it so that it works out for her. So that was a small one. But then, so the music's playing. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about anyone, but like, I would think that you would play it on something that is going to be smooth. Like, what they did was they got a phone and they used an app. I don't know what app it was. I don't know if it might have been YouTube, because what ended up happening was in the middle of the song. She's in the middle of the aisle. There's an ad starts playing, like a commercial, yeah. And it's just loud. And you can see people like panicking, trying to like, whoa, like fumbling with whatever the phone is. And like, I didn't get mad at all, but it didn't bother me. But I'm like, of course, at my wedding, in the middle of her walk down, an ad plays during the song that she chose. That she was like, oh, I can't wait to hear this song. Like she talked about the song. It's gonna bug me what it was called. I think it's she's in the song. They say I'd love you for 1,000 years or 1,000,000 more, something like that. And so Rocio liked that song like 2 years ago. And so when we got engaged and we started talking about the wedding, she was just like,
already knew.
That's the song I want to walk down to. Are you okay with that? I'm like, I don't care. I mean, yeah, I'm not walking. I'm just standing like a fucking dork. Yeah. I'm like, oh, hey, look at you, beautiful. I'm wearing suspenders today because that's what, and a bow tie. You know what I mean? Like I didn't choose what I wore. The only thing that I did that she didn't want me to do is like I didn't put anything in my hair. She wanted me to put gel in it and put it up in like a fucking top knot kind of thing, and I was like, nah, I don't want to do that, and so I just didn't. And other than that, it was like, how do you want me to dress? What do you want me to wear? And she picked everything out, and then I bought it, and it was fine with me. I liked the look. She was really going for like a rustic kind of look, like country, which is interesting because she's not country at all, not even a little bit, but she liked the look. So those two things happened, and then the lady that I call our spiritual godmother, Dora Trillo, shout out to her. She's just like one of the best human beings I've ever met. I've talked about her on here before, and I've asked her to be on the show, and she's down. The only thing is, and hopefully you guys get to listen to this episode because you can learn a lot from her. Like I learned a lot. Like you just sit with her, and she's the kind of person that knows you without she could know you after about 3 minutes. She'll tell you everything about your spirit, and I don't mean like, I'm not talking about like spirituality, and I'm not talking about love and light. I'm talking about like she knows who you are. She talks about, like she told me right away in the first meeting we had that she could tell that I was like a sad little boy, that when I was little I was really sad. She's like, I still see in your eyes, you look like a little boy to me. And I was like, what? Because I was real skeptical. I was introduced to her as like, you should go talk to her because she can help you out with your issues, And I was like, what? And right. But at the time I had issues, so I was trying to get rid of them. And I was like, I'm willing to do some things that other dudes wouldn't do because I'm willing to give things a shot, knowing that I might be nervous about them, but I'll do it anyway if I think it might work. And if it doesn't, it's okay. I'm strong enough and I'm confident enough that
nobody wants to go outside the box.
No, and that's the thing. No one wants to push the envelope because they're afraid that they're going to look like a wuss, or they're afraid they're going to it's not going to go the way they want, or most guys are just afraid to open up and be vulnerable with somebody else that they don't know. And I get it. That's scary. It's not. But at the time, again, I didn't want to be angry anymore. I don't want to be just a crazy boozer. Like, it sounds weird. Oh, I'm drinking booze now, but I'm not a boozer like I used to be. And I used to drink to blackouts because I was just like, fuck it. I don't want to. It's the only time I'll feel really confident is when really, I'm drunk, and I can put on this facade and act like I'm, confident and I'm secure, and I'm not. So that's what we hide behind, a lot of masks and stuff like that. But she knew me right away. Like she read me up and down and was telling me stuff. And she's so awesome because the way she talks, man, like it's. Especially if you're a guy, like it's and I don't want this to sound weird, but it's almost like a sexual, like she's into you, like she gives off this vibe, but she calls me Papi, and so she's like, oh, Papi. She's always rubbing me and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know, are you coming on to me or are you loving me? I don't know what this is, because it's not like a grandma, it's like a tia, it's like this tia who's there to help you, she loves you, so like a tia's an aunt, sorry for anyone who doesn't know, but it's like this, Papi, you have something about you, and her hands are always going like this, and it's like you get caught in this, like, you're like, what's going on? And she's not afraid to say anything. She's not afraid to show off how she's fire. I
don't want to say it's mesmerizing. But it is. It's like she gets you in a trance when she starts doing all this. And it is. And
it's just talking. Like, she's not like, I mean, she doesn't get too far into like the new age love and light stuff. It's more about like talking about your spirit, and she just wants you to come alive, and she talks about how she can read auras. I mean, I was one time where I was like, all right, and we were drinking, we were at our house, she came over, it was like Rocio's kind of had like a girl night, except I was there, I guess, that's long haired. So we were at an apartment a couple years ago that we lived at, and it was a bunch of girls, and I was there drinking, we were talking, and she was telling the other girls about how she can read auras. And I'm like, is that true? I'm like, all right, I'm going to push out some colors right now and let's see if you can read my aura. And I told my mind, like, I'm going to feel as though I'm pushing out green and purple. And I just started, I didn't do anything, but I was just like, and I'm, we were drinking. So it was like a fun thing. And she goes, papi, I see, purple and green. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I don't know if that I was pushing anything out but she's like, you have a little right here. And I was just like, whoa, all right. And again, that could have just been a total guess. If you want to be incredibly logical and find no magic in the world and find nothing but what you can see, if you're so close. And I know a lot of guys like that, or a few guys like that are so anti-religion, and I was anti-religion. I get it. I'm not really into a specific organized religion, but I feel like there is some kind of magic out there, some stuff that you can't explain with logic and facts and stuff. And the people that live in that world, it's interesting to me that those type of people, usually the guys that are in that world, are so against religion too. And I'm like, but that's such a religious mind state to me. Like, it's black and white or nothing. It's this or that and nothing in the middle, no gray, nothing outside of that. It's this or that. It's very like strict. And I feel like that kind of matches up with religious thought and all that.
Yeah.
So when those two things match up,
especially in the Christian world, like if you believe it's, and not no disrespect to any Christian believers, but it's one of those things where there's a magic there because you actually believe in something that is in a book that most people don't understand when they read it. But again, in a different culture, you're reading or hearing things about stories and you're like, well, I don't believe that because I don't think it happened. Well, because it's written in a book and then because it happened in a different area, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That magic definitely exists. Definitely.
It's weird because there's almost like a childlike thing about it where it only exists if you believe in it. And I remember somebody told me once when I talked about a vision I had while I was meditating, and they were like, well, yeah, of course things are going to seem like magic if you believe it. Of course, if you convince yourself that it's real. I'm like, so what's wrong with that? Like, I'm not whatever I convince myself of, is it hurting anybody? Did I convince myself that killing people is okay? Like, no, I didn't. I convinced myself that I had a vision that helped me understand more about feeling safe and not, because I have like a hypervigilance thing where everywhere I go, I kind of keep my head on a swivel. I'm always like, at night, if I hear a noise, I have to go check everything. I got to like, whenever I'm out with the family, I'm like, I got my eye on them like crazy. And it's just, I've always been like that. And I know some people are like that. Some people are probably like, well, yeah, it's normal. But I think I've talked to other people, and most other people aren't like that. They don't have to keep their head on a swivel everywhere they go. They're not always thinking, hey, what's that guy doing? Or,
I do the same thing.
I hear a noise behind you. What's that? But, yeah, I forgot what I was talking about because I just started on a ramble. But let's go back to, so the vision was more about trusting, whatever you want to call it, God, spirit, creator, whatever. Just trusting that there's something else that's looking out for you. Because I never felt like that when I was younger. I felt like I was completely on my own. That it was all every move I made decided everything else, and I have to control my entire environment because if I don't, things are going to go bad and things are going to get bad for me.
Right.
And it's like I didn't trust anything. There was no feeling of. And that comes from, the way I felt about my parents. It was like, well, if you don't feel like they have your back, then you don't feel safe anywhere you go. If you're a kid who doesn't feel safe, then you're going to grow up as an adult and not feel safe. That makes sense to me. So now I have this other idea that I'm okay no matter what happens. I'll be, whatever happens, I'll be okay. Like, I'm protected, I'm safe. And now I have this family environment that it's taken it to the next level. Like, you and Alicia always being around just makes me feel good because I'm like, it's the brotherly, sisterly feeling that I never really had. And I had little brothers. It's not their fault. I'm not saying anything bad about my brothers. We weren't raised in an environment where we were meant to really be close to each other. There was a lot more competition between me and my middle brother. And I feel bad now as an adult looking back. Like, he had to live he had to live in my shadow growing up.
Yeah.
And I cast a pretty big shadow considering I was, like that kid that was forced to be a straight A student, to be the captain of the sports team, which this isn't all bad stuff, but it was forced. It wasn't like I wanted to be. It was like, if you aren't, you're not worth shit. Yeah. So being the achievement monster, the achievement machine, and then you got a younger brother who has some developmental issues, obviously you're going to probably not feel great. You're going to have a chip on your shoulder if you're the little guy. Like, he's a shorter guy. He's like 5'6". and your older brother is regular size, and people like him. He's got great grades. He's good. He's a captain of the sports teams, and then his high school hits, and it gets even worse. So I understand. Like when I was younger, I was like, "What's he so fucking mad about? Like what an asshole." It's got to be tough to be in that situation. I mean, you have multiple brothers. You have 3 brothers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you know what it's like to be in that environment where there's
Yeah.
competition or at least bumping heads, right?
Oh, constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm the youngest of all of 5.
So you got like the opposite end of the spectrum that I got, right?
Kind of, but I really don't think my older brothers were older brothers to me.
Yeah.
So it was totally different from my aspect. Like people always said, you wanted this or you want that. And I was like, well, I was kind of on my own still. My parents, loving parents, they didn't push me to do anything, and what I wanted to do, I wanted to do, and they were fine with it.
Yeah.
But supportive in any way, whatever I wanted. So,
Yeah, I mean, the way you talk about your parents is it's awesome and it's loving and all that. And I hear like about your mom. She always reminds me of my nana, which I miss all the time now. Not even in a bad way. I just miss my nana. All this, I think it's like now that Rose is getting to the point where she's almost 3. Shout out to Rose. Her birthday is in 9 days, so that's awesome. And she's getting older now, and I feel like a real dad. Like I feel like I have I'm like a real dad. Where before it was like when she's a baby, you're kind of like still learning everything, but now I feel like I got over the hump, and I'm like a real dad now. So what that does is it makes a lot. It takes it puts me in a different perspective with the way the past and when I was a kid and my parents and my brothers and the people that I was the way I was when I was in my 20s. I'm just like, oh god, I feel like I was like ridiculous until about 2017 2015 is when I was like, oh, I think I'll start growing up now. It's I'm almost 30. I should probably start growing up now and not be such a wild animal. But there's just a different perspective, like just being a dad, like, understand more about the kind of pressure dads have if you're going to be an actual dad. There's a lot of people that run away or a lot of dads that, and no disrespect to anybody, but a lot of dads who see their kids once every other weekend. And it's different than when you're there every single day and you're part of every single aspect and you do homework every day. And on the weekends, you got to, figure something out for them to do if they're not in an event. It's like you don't get all everyone else is, has the downtime to work on stuff. Like I wish I could do this podcast every fucking day, but it's like the amount of shit I do on a weekly basis for the kids. And it's like, it's for the kids, but I understand it's for me too. Like I'm developing at the same time. Like I don't look at my kids as a burden. And I actually have like a friend that blows my mind every time I talk to him. He's just like, he's bummed out that he's a dad. That, like he's just, and he like openly talks shit about his like little kid. He's like 2 or something or 1, and he just basically says, I would rather have not had a kid. I wish I still would have been traveling and having enjoying life. And I'm like, but you don't see it all. Like he's one of those guys that anti-religion, thinks he's smarter than everybody, and whatever he thinks is 100% true. Anything else is ridiculous. There's one perspective, it's the right perspective. Every other perspective is wrong. That's how he thinks. So for him, he had this kid, and he's so stuck in that mindset of like, I fucked up, and now I have to live with this. And I'm like, but you don't just like wake up like excited to see your son. Like every day I wake up and I'm like, well, I wake up too early for Rose to be awake, but every day I leave and I get like this rush where I'm just happy. I'm like, oh man, like how lucky am I? Like Rose is so awesome. Like then I go wake up Dom, because Dom has me waking up at 5:30 in the morning now during the week. He's whatever. Whatever, could be worse, but I wake him up and it's just funny, even though he's 5 handfuls, you have to like see all the positive side, all the fun he is. Like he's such a interesting fucking guy, like and it's hard. I know I'd say 9 out of 10 guys couldn't hang with Dominic, but I can, and I know that it's because I'm getting something out of it too. Like it's what he needs and it's good for him, but it also, like, I'm not dumb enough to think that I'm just this hero. Like I'm getting help too, like I'm working on stuff from my past. I have dad issues, so of course, well then maybe you need to get like the hard road of being a dad to work through those dad issues. I mean, I see it also there's times where I'm like, I totally get why my dad did a lot of the stuff he did and the way he acted. I mean, you don't want to deal with stuff when you're an angry, grumpy dude. Just smack the shit out of him and he'll stop doing what he's doing. My dad just never really wanted to work on himself. My dad never really wanted to understand me. He just wanted me to get in line, and that was the real issue. Like, I don't think he hated me. I don't know that he wanted me around. I felt like he didn't, but that's a young man that's a young man's thought. You know, like you can't. It's hard to be like, oh, what a piece of shit. It's like, well, he was a young guy and he never really got out of that mindset. I mean, I had more chances. I actually woke up and decided I don't want to be like
Yeah.
I don't want to continue this. I got to end it. So, it's just different. And I think a lot of what that is too is me expecting too much out of somebody who doesn't have it. And, he obviously had his own issues and wounds that are none of my business, really. I mean,
Right.
they became an issue for me, but that's something for him to work on, and it didn't happen. So, I can't expect everyone to be like me. I can't expect everyone to try as hard as I do. And that's something I've been learning, not just with him, but like several people in my life where I'm just like, I expect so much, and it's not even fair. It's like, I'm like, why do you expect them to be the best version of themselves right now? Like, everybody's growing, everybody's working, everyone's trying to get better. We hope they are.
I think we might know a couple of these people. We might have a common.
Of course.
But I get it. I mean, and a lot of people don't. I've hung out with you long enough to understand like what we're doing here and what's happening. But you've told me before, like I've always tried to give everybody benefit of the doubt. Everybody, and I've recently stopped not giving them that benefit, and now I have Alicia behind my ear telling me, "Hey, just you got to give them a chance." And I'm thinking like, "The hell, you were never behind my ear telling me this. It was always me, and now she's telling me," and I'm like, "Well, I've tried."
Yeah.
And I try. I don't know if I want to keep giving it the benefit because sometimes it's plain and simple. It's just not working anymore.
And it hurts you. Like I've seen you, and the reason you said that I said that is it's this. You and Rocio are very similar. We've always said that. Like Alicia and I are more similar than either one of you, and then you two are more similar than either one of us. And you and Rocio like both have this ability, and it's a good compliment to me. With Rocio is that she has. I can easily cut anybody out immediately. Like, and it's not when I say easily, I'm not saying emotionally easy, but when I know I need to do something, I do it, and that's it. And no matter how I feel after, I can deal with the feelings because I would rather do the right thing than living with regret or live with guilt not guilt, but live with the problem. You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes I always put myself on both ends of whatever I do. Like the other side of that is, well, maybe you just run away too quickly. Maybe you don't want to deal with the problem, so you run away or you kick people out, and that's the easy way out. But my mind always tries to make sure I check both things just so that I know that I'm not.
I don't think I've ever, as long as I've known you, I don't think I've ever seen you in that position.
No, I don't.
I think you just play it. You definitely play it all out. And I think it's because you're making sure.
Right.
So I've never seen you like instantly just exit. I've never seen that.
And I don't think I do either. I just saying that like I put that in my mind to make sure that that's not what I'm doing. And so, but once I make a final decision, I mean, and I'm not saying like I have friends that I've booted out and brought back in. So it's not like you're out forever. But that choice, it's solid. It's done right there. Unless things change, this is how it is. Right. And Rocio has let a lot more people hang around where I'm telling her like get this person out of your fucking life, like because I feel like it's going to sound cocky, but I have a very good judge of person's character right away. What comes out seems harsh a lot of times. It's very, damn, fuck, man, that was a little rough. But that's how I talk. That's how I deliver how I want to say. It's very blunt, straightforward, because I don't want anyone to not understand what I'm saying. So with her, she's been, in the beginning, she would always tell me like, give them don't be so easy to cut them off, because for her, she grew up in the guilt environment where everybody, no matter, you can do whatever you want in her family. You know that's how the brothers are. You can do whatever you want, and no matter what, you'll always be accepted in this house. You could fucking, and all of them have gotten in trouble. All the brothers have gotten in trouble, done some stuff. We all have, but I'm saying all of them have done some stuff that was kick out worthy,
right?
Get out of here worthy, grow up worthy, so I there's something nice about that where you're like, wow, like I wouldn't understand that world where I couldn't fuck up the way any of them fucked up and have my dad keep me around. My dad's like, get the fuck out of here. You're a disgrace. He would think that way. So it's weird, but that makes me understand why Rocio is not likely to just kick someone out of her life, because she was raised in that way where you're always accepted back. The parents will always take care of it. They'll always bring, and I didn't have that. If I fucked up, it could be it. I could be gone. If I fucked up, I could be on the streets. If I fucked up in any way, I could be homeless, and I was homeless for a little bit. Like, so I definitely watched what I was doing very, very much more than a lot of other people I grew up with. And I see that's why Rocio is that way. And so I think we've kind of balanced each other out. She's much more willing now to boot some people out. She hasn't really. She's just more likely to shut up and stop like talking to somebody. She's more like, okay, well, if they want to hang out, I'm not gonna reach. I'm not gonna be the one to reach out anymore.
Right.
And I know recently, like you and Alicia have booted some people out of your life where you're just like, hey, they didn't want to, they decided to go this route, and normally I'd feel bad, but why would I feel bad? Like, why should I feel bad? I didn't do anything wrong.
It's kind of the same scenario, and I want to say I was already in that Rocio mode where it's like, all right, I stopped talking, and it was just one of those things where I wanted them to, I guess, put more effort, because I've asked, I made some invites, I've set things up, and people are. I understand people have a life, everything's busy, and we're just as busy too, and just I guess they felt that we weren't making enough effort to go see our godson, which, I totally say I sat back and I thought, well, what can I go do?
Like, were you gonna invite yourself to their house?
Like what more could I do? Maybe I could have done more to go see him, but at the same time, I had to lay out and write down like notes of what I've done and what I've tried to do to get them to come out more. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, I think I did a lot. Yeah. And I don't think there was any more I could do. And eventually, it was their decision. But going back to your comment earlier was, sometimes you got to just let it go. And eventually, will they come back? I think they'll come back because I think everybody eventually sees their error. Mm-hmm. And will they come back? I think they will because, before this time, I hadn't talked to him in more than 20 years.
Oh, dang.
So, it was one of those things where he finally came back, but it was me asking, looking for him for certain reasons, of course, but this was his choice now to leave. So, it's fine.
And that's all it is. It's like, I'm the kind of person where at this point, I try not to like harbor resentment or be pissed off at someone that I just don't want to be around anymore. I'm like, I just don't want to be around you. Like, I have so much going on and so many things that I want to do that I'm not going to be the person that does things because I feel bad. I don't want to. Right. I'm not going to go do something because you know what? I feel bad. I better go do that. Because I just feel like that sets a bad precedent as to the future reasons you're going to continue to do that. Is every time I feel bad, I'm going to go see that person. And it's like, nah. I'm okay with. Like, there's no one that's gonna be able to guilt trip me. Like, I've had people try, and I'm like, oh, that's adorable. Like, look at you using the old Catholic guilt on me. Yeah. Oh, not a Catholic, so it's not gonna work. I see past guilt, and I understand what it is, and I understand that's a manipulative thing. Guilt trips and guilt in general that people use. That's some way to manipulate people through emotions, as opposed to asking someone to show, like, we'd like to see you. Yeah, that's a lot better than. Like, hey, this person never shows up. Blah, blah. It's like, okay, so maybe we don't belong around each other then, and it's not even in an angry way.
I think that was with that ending, it was a guilt thing for me, but it was a whole teaching period. But everything that's happened in my life, and we talked about that many times, is that everything teaches me something. So that was teach me about the guilt that people feel. Yeah, and then it was like, well, hell, I don't need to feel guilty, but I don't feel guilty about a lot of things.
Yeah, you'd have to actually accept the guilty feeling. If you don't accept it, then there's no, then the guilt trip doesn't work. And I've talked to people about that, and because we know a lot of people that are just like, oh, I felt bad, and I'm like, yeah, you got to get out of that. You got to do something because you want to do it, not because you feel bad enough that you should do it. Right. Because it's just, to me, it doesn't seem like a very genuine way of going about things, or putting a good spirit forward or a good feeling into something. Is I did it because I felt bad. It's like, I don't want to do anything because I felt bad. I want to just, I want to feel good, or at least do it because it's the right thing to do. So that whole thing just, it doesn't matter to me. I've booted it out, and it's like, I don't even mean to sound cocky, but I think it's a win for me. I think to get past that is great, because I'm a dad who has kids, and I'm teaching lessons now, and I don't want to lay guilt trips on them to make sure that they grow up laying guilt trips on other people. It's like, I would rather, I had a ton of guilt trips being laid on me as a kid, and guess what? I don't want to be around my parents anymore, and they're not doing anything wrong. They're not my kind of people. So it's like, I don't want my kids to feel that way about me. Right. I don't want them to come visit me when, 20 years from now because they feel bad. I want them to be like, Dad, let's hang out. I'm coming over, and I'm like, I would love that. And I think that's how it's going to be. Like, I don't see either of my kids like, oh God, I gotta go hang out with my dad. Like I think I'm a cool dad. I think I understand them and I talk to them a lot. And I think when we get older, they're gonna enjoy coming over. They're gonna enjoy bringing their families over. They're gonna enjoy my Rose. Oh good, when she's gonna enjoy bringing her boyfriend over, and I'm gonna fuck with him, whoever he is. Poor kid. I don't even mean like in a tough guy way. Like I'm just gonna be silly and fuck with him. I'm gonna ask him
I'm
questions.
thinking the tough guy way.
You could do tough stuff. I'm gonna be more like I'm gonna be like Michael Corleone, just not physically tough, but just very like psychologically in tune to what's going on.
Pick him apart.
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm gonna make him feel like the heat on the back of his neck. I'm gonna kiss him on his neck and just be like, "How was that? You like that?" And whisper little things here and there, in his ear, where I'm not gonna get physical at all, but I'm gonna just psychologically damage the young boy. No, I'm just kidding. Oh man, but yeah, that's how it is for me. I just don't want my kids to not want to be around me. That to me is like, it's heartbreaking. Like I would not want to. That life just sounds like it sucks, man.
I feel like my mom was definitely very strict. So was my dad. And I understand why they were. We were definitely lived in the middle of a gang infested area.
Yeah.
So I understand all the freedom that we were lacking, but at the same time, I understood what was going on. But everybody thought they were the cool aunt and uncle. Like if any of our older cousins were ditching school, they were coming to our house.
Oh really? Oh, so you're saying your parents?
Yeah.
People thought your parents were the cool aunt and uncle. Like
so, I'm like, wow, they're so strict, but yet they were the coolest of everybody that was around. And it was true because nobody else was going anywhere else. They were coming to our place.
Yeah.
And it was because my mom and dad were really good about having them there as a responsible way of having them get out of school, because they really didn't want anybody getting in trouble.
Okay, so it was like they were strict with you because you were their kids and they had plans for you, or they had a certain way you guys had like ideas they wanted you to be, in control, but they also didn't want these kids running. They rather that they're there than on the streets.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, that's what you want from an aunt or uncle. I mean, obviously they're like, oh God, do I gotta say something to the parents, or maybe not say something to the parents, but it's like, it's the similar idea to why some parents are cool with their kids drinking with them when they're like 18, 19.
Right.
Because it's like, I'd rather have them here at the house drinking with me where they're not out driving and acting wild, getting in fights in public. Because I know my parents are very much against it, and I understand both sides. Like, you don't want your kids. I mean, some people don't want their kids to be drinking at 18, 19. Yeah. I mean, it's gonna happen. Most kids are drinking they're in high school, so it's like, I mean, I know I like Dom has asked questions already. Dom's 11, like he doesn't want to drink, but he's asked questions about drinking. I've just been pretty honest with him. I'm like, when I was a young man, I was a fucking idiot. I would drink way too much, and it was dumb. I was like, but I told him I was in pain. Like I was trying to feel good about myself, so I drank too much, and I'm like, you don't have to do that. I was like, if you want to drink, that's cool. I mean, you don't have to. I don't think it's like, it's not something I want you to do, but if you do, like, I'll drink with you. I'll have a shot with you. I'd rather you drink with me, because nobody taught me how to drink. I learned how to drink in college, and it was a fucking terrible idea. I went through the fraternity. I went that route. So when it came back to Whittier, it was like, you guys don't drink like fucking animals. You don't drink 16 beers a night and do shotgun beers and take shots. You don't drink 4 different types of liquor and drink beers. You don't do that. Like, where's the fucking keg? And people, it was weird. So I learned that way, and it just became how I drank. It was a lot and fast, and I don't want Dominic learning from fucking college how to drink, and I don't need to teach him either. But I'd rather that he's around me so I can kind of catch it before it turns into a problem if he's gonna drink. And like what I guess, I don't know if maybe some of it's lucky, some of it is me just being in the right place and talking to him, being honest with him, but he tells me everything, man. So I don't see him hiding drinking from me. I don't see him. I'm sure he'll ask me questions about weed. He'll be asking me questions about drugs. Yeah. And I like that, because I know that makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing, that he can come to me and talk to me instead of hiding it from me.
100%. But I mean, we know Dom really well, animal and everything, but he's not a very good liar. So it's not like he's going to be able to keep it from you anyway.
Yeah.
He might be able to keep a little bit from Rocio at to a limit, but eventually she's going to find out quickly. I mean, but I think that's part of their family trait, is that they're all not very good at lying anyways.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so, because I've knowing the family as well as I do,
Mm-hmm.
I can catch little things here and
Yeah.
there, and then I'll just talk to Alicia on the side and say, "Hey, well," and she's like, "Yeah." And
I've
I'm
seen
like,
I've seen
"Okay."
Nacha lie, her mom, and I'm
Yeah.
like, and it's not even in English, it's in Spanish, and I'm still like, Jesus Christ, she's
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
lying. And Rocio, she's not. I mean, as far as I know, she's never lied to me in any like serious way. She's made like little lies, like, oh, I didn't do that. I'm like, I know you did that. Like, kind of something around the house, like, oh, she's just like, oh, embarrassed or something
Yeah.
like that. But I it makes sense now because it's just like I feel like I can tell when anyone's lying pretty quickly, like anyone, even if it's a small lie. I'm like, and I've learned to not call everybody out because it's like it's not worth it sometimes. Just let them. It's okay. Like just
Yeah.
so that combined with Dominic's complete lacking ability to lie, to be a good liar. I'm like, oh my god. Like I'll tell him like, Dom, you're terrible at this, man. You don't have to lie. You're horrible at lying. Like I was like, you're good at a lot of other stuff. You suck at lying. So every time you do it, I can see it, dude. Like just you don't even But he can't help it. Part of the ADHD thing is like this impulsive, fearful, back against the wall lying, where he thinks that's the only way out is to lie, and it's quick and it just happens. And I'm like,
And I understand a kid, almost any kid out there is going to try to lie, but I think that's his weakness is the ADHD because it doesn't give him much to move forward with.
like much room. He's just like,
yeah, because that ADHD is kind of like setting him up. He could probably be a good liar because he definitely has good stories.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where it's like, if the ADHD wasn't there, he'd probably be pretty good at lying. Probably.
Maybe, yeah, because he used to try to be very manipulative, and it just doesn't work anymore. It's like he's getting older now. I think he's starting to see this. It's not going to work. Like, he can't just talk his way into anything. But it's. I love the guy. He's a wild little animal where he's just every day you're like, what in the fuck? And what's crazy is in public, he's not an animal. In public, everyone thinks he's like the sweetest kid. And I'm just like, oh, I'm glad. I guess I'm glad that he's not like this, like the way he is at home when he's just flipping out, like losing control and tantruming. He's not like that out in public, so I guess I'm lucky. But to me sometimes I'm like, well, then how much control are you in if you cannot do it out here but you have to do it at home? I'm like, how much of this? So I'm always kind of like, all right. But at home it's obviously harder because he doesn't, like, he's comfortable with us to where him looking like a fool in his mind matters more when he's in public because he cares more about what those people think than what we think. And it's like, okay, whatever. But we started getting off a tangent. We were talking about Dora. It's like a 30-minute tangent. Dora officiating the wedding, and she's so cool. She goes up there, and she had like this glass tray of sand because we originally were going to get married on the beach, and then everything kind of changed. And so she brought the sand, and she had like seashells and all this other stuff that was symbolic of what we were going through. And she was talking about what a marriage is symbolically and spiritually, and she talked a little bit about us when how we were when she met us. And what was interesting is Rocio and I broke up like twice in the first year that we were dating. And the second time it seemed like it was over, and Rocio went to go talk to her, and she's like, oh, he'll come back. She's like, no, you don't know him, Dora. Like, he's very, like, when he makes a decision, he makes a decision. Like, she's like, he was done. And we didn't break up because anything, like, no one cheated or anything crazy like that. It's just she was having some trust issues because of past relationships, and I was in a really, really angry state in my life, and I was like, how could you not trust me? Like, I'm the most trustworthy person in the world. Like,
right.
I don't cheat. I've never cheated. I don't do that. Like, I feel more bad doing it. I think I'm the most loyal person that I know, and I don't mean that in a bad way to anybody else. I just know that about myself. Like, if I'm on your team, I'll do anything for you. Like, I got your back. I'll take care of you. And it's like, if I choose you to be with me, you're it. I put you on a pedestal. Like, everyone that knows Rocio around me, like, treats her like the queen because I put her on a pedestal, and they're like, it's a respect thing. Like, she gets a lot of, she gets to benefit from being around me because everyone's, I don't think this I'm not trying to say, it might sound cocky, but I think people are like very respectful because they respect me, and they kind of like, I don't want to fuck up with Lance, so I need to treat her nicely. He puts her on a pedestal. Like, fuck, I better keep her up there. I better hold the pedestal up because, this psycho might fucking get upset. And I don't mean afraid, like they're not afraid I'm gonna fight them. It's just more, I have a podcast, I have a big mouth, and like they've heard stories, and so I think she gets to benefit from like people are so nice to her, and she's just like always surprised. I'm like, what are you surprised about? These are good people. I don't bring shitty people around you, like, and so we broke up because I just felt like I couldn't be in a relationship where I wasn't trusted because I'm like I've never done anything to you, like I've done everything. I've tried to be a dad to your son. And so I'm the one that ended it, and I was upset, and I was like, fuck this, and I'll just go back to being what I was before, just back to being a single animal. Like, fuck this. Obviously, things aren't working with me in relationships. Obviously, I should just be, the single dude, drinking and partying and having 4 different girls shifted in this fucking, that's what I thought was cool at the time. And so I ended it, and I mean, I still didn't do anything afterwards, but when she went to go see Dora, Dora was like, nah, he'll be back. She's like, you don't know him. She's like, she grabbed her hand and was like, he's gonna be back. Trust me. She's like, he's in love with you. He loves you. He has issues with people leaving. He has issues with not feeling like he's wanted and she said he has issues with people not understanding his loyalty and not understanding how much he cares, because he always feels like nobody cares about him as much as he cares about everyone else. And she was spot on. I was like, I mean, she told me later. Rosa told me this later. She's like, I didn't believe her at all, but fuck, she was right. But that was so right. Like, that's how I've always felt. I feel like nobody cares about me as anywhere near as much as I care about them. And again, that goes back to expectations. That's me expecting a lot out of people who I shouldn't. It's not fair. Like, maybe I'm just the one that goes a little hard on that, and I shouldn't expect everyone else to be at that same level, because it's not fair. It's actually unfair to do. So it's in that goes back again. You really can take that back to my parents. Maybe I expected way too much out of them, and it wasn't even fair. Like, they're capable of this much, and I'm like, I need you to be up here, and they're like, what the fuck? But I'm hitting my ceiling here, and I'm just like, well, fuck you then, So, back to Dora, like, she's spot on. She's on it, man. Like, she's sharp. And I started to say earlier, the reason why I haven't had her on the show yet is we have to have someone in here who can help translate a little bit, because she speaks English, but it's very heavily accented. And so, like, I might understand what she's saying, but not everyone that listens to the show speaks Spanish. Not everyone that listens to the show has been around a ton of Mexican people, so there's gonna have to be somebody there to kind of explain. And there's times where she says shit where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck she just said, but it sounded cool. So she just said, she even said, of course I'll be on, but just make sure you have someone to kind of help translate. And I'm like, okay, well, so we have to like plan it out to where she can be on with someone who maybe like Angie, our friend Angie. She might be able to kind of be that mid. That's who I imagined when I first thought about her being on, with someone like Angie, because Angie can understand what she's talking about, not just the word she's using, but the sort of what she means and what she's talking about. So we'll have to get that whole thing going. So she officiated the wedding, and what was funny is we actually asked her to get her license for this event. So she didn't even think about being an ordained minister. I mean, it's actually, for anyone that wants to do that, it's like super easy. You just go online. And I forgot what you did it too, right? What's it called? It's like UCI, or no, not UCI, something, Universal Church something.
Yeah.
If you just Google like how to become
ministry or
something, how to become an ordained minister, and you do it online, and you're done in like 5 minutes. The only thing is, if you want it to have like the official certificate, you have to pay like X amount of money, and then they send you a certificate, and then you can actually officiate weddings. So we got her set up because we wanted her to do it. And she was like, I don't know why I never thought about this. This is perfect for me. And I'm like, yeah, imagine her asking. You can imagine her like just fire up there and marrying people. It's perfect for her.
Well, her ceremony was awesome. I mean, everything she did was nothing I've ever seen. Yeah. So it was, that's
what we pictured in our minds. And we were like, we're non-traditional. So we were like, wouldn't it be cool to have her do it? Because we know she's going to come up with something funky.
Oh, it was, I don't want to say it was funky. It was just the way, and again, you mentioned it before. It's her energy that she brings to the table. That, like, everything she planned out was perfect.
There was definitely time put in it, like days put into what she was doing.
Because she was like, "What did you think?" And I was like, "There's nothing I would have changed it to. Everything just seemed to fall into place." And she was like, "Oh God, thank you." And I was like, "It's like she was wondering."
She was so nervous. That's why. And it's not like her. Like when you're around her, you don't like the last thing you think of when you think about how she's feeling or what's going on is nervous, because she's not the nervous kind of person. She's on fire. Okay, so quick story, quick background. When we had the bridal shower, or it's called a wedding shower. Basically, it's a party before we have people and they show up. Like, we invited her, obviously, and she showed up late, and we were like, okay, whatever. And so all of a sudden, someone's walking up. We had it at Rosie's parents' house, and her husband's walking up, and we've seen her husband a bunch of times. Super nice guy, super quiet. You could tell he's totally the opposite of Dora, which makes sense. They balance each other out. He doesn't even speak most of the time. He's just quiet, and she's like, and he's just smiling back there like, oh, well, I don't have time. I got nothing. So he walks up the driveway, and he has a boombox, and it's playing music, which is weird because we had music playing. So we're like, oh, okay. And we immediately, my thought was, Dora's up to something. Like, there's something's about to happen. And then Dora comes up, and there's something, if you've never seen her in public, she has like a problem with her foot. She's had some issues since she was like, I think like 8 years old. She like got her foot crushed somehow. I think it was a car accident, or I don't know what happened. I forgot. But she has like a limp. Like, she can't walk at a regular pace. But she dances just as much as anyone else. That lady can dance, and so she comes up the driveway, dancing, and it's Indian music of some kind. Yeah. And she's like kind of has like a necklace or it was like a boa. I don't remember what it was, but she was like twirling it around, and my immediate thought was, oh fuck, she's gonna call me out to dance with her or something. And then out of nowhere, a belly dancer shows up behind her, and I'm like, oh dude, like, oh, here we go. I know they're gonna make me dance with them, because she's the kind of person where she won't take no for an answer. Right. So I already told myself, again, this is why I don't like this kind of attention, because now I'm forced to go do something, because you don't want to be the party pooper. You know what I mean? Like, she's doing it out of love. She's not trying to embarrass you. What she was doing was, she's the fire starter. She wanted to start the fire. She wanted to get the party going.
Definitely started it.
So she showed up late on purpose, because she knew we'd all be there. So now it's like, all right, now I'm going to start the party. You motherfuckers are eating and calmly enjoying each other's company. Fuck that. We're lighting the dance floor up on fire. So she walks up dancing. The belly dancer shows up. They immediately grab Rocio. And I'm like, oh, maybe they'll just do it. Maybe just a bribe. But I was like, there's no way. Like, Dora loves me too much. She's going to force me to come up here. So Rocio's dancing with her. And I was like, all right, I'm here with a couple of work friends. I got like my cousins. Like, I don't dance this kind of stuff like this. But it's like, you need to be. This was good for me. I was like, you need to go get uncomfortable, get silly. But I was like, just be funny. Just try to be funny. You don't have, because it was belly dancing. It wasn't like I could dance. I like dancing, but I never fucking tried belly dancing. So they call me up there, and it's her and Dora. So like a female belly dancer and Dora just chest shaking at me, and then doing like, shaking their hips. And I'm like, all right, just make people laugh, man. So I jokingly was, there's two women on me, and I just put my hands up like, babe, watch my hands. And I'm just like shimmying, because I'm like, I don't, just make it funny. Just don't worry about looking good or not being silly. Just be silly and just make it funny. So I was like, look, babe, my hands. Got a couple of laughs, but then I'm like watching her, and I'm like overdoing the weird shimmy that I was supposed to be doing. I'm like, I'm shimmying. am I shimmying? 'Cause it was just awkward. I didn't expect to have to belly dance that day. I was already a couple of drinks deep, so I'm like, fuck it, So we did that, and then I was like, I know she's gonna call up Nacha, which is Rocio's mom. I'm like, she's gonna call up Nacha, and Nacha is like very similar to Dora, because she's very much like into the party. She's very excitable. She likes the spotlight. She loves the attention. She loves attention. So they called her up, and she was like, acting like she was shocked. What, me? Of course you. So she got up there and danced with the three of them. That was funny. Then they grabbed Rocio's dad, and he's a good sport. He's actually really an old school Mexican dude. Like, he's generally kind of quiet, and some people might think he's kind of grumpy, but he parties. Like, he'll take a shot with you. He'll drink a beer. He'll dance. Like, he'll dance and he's in his 70s. Yeah. But so I was like, this is gonna be funny. And he's just staring at the belly dancer's boobs the whole time, and not hiding it either. I'm not saying that, like, I'm not calling him out. Yeah. It was very clear. His eyes were on and it was funny. It was the belly dancer even like tilted her head back, laughing like a hysterical laugh, because she's like, yeah, he's looking at my tits. Huh? She didn't say that, but that was exactly what was happening. And I was a couple deep, so I was like, hey, her eyes are up there, Roy. You stop looking at those. And everyone started laughing, because it was very clear that he's just staring at boob. But what was funny is he was dancing too, and he was going harder than anyone else was. Like, he was shaking his hips, and I'm like, look at that. See, that's you want to be that kind of dad at least
Yeah.
when it comes to being at the party. You want to be like, fuck it, because when I'm that age, I mean, fuck, maybe if I make it that age, it's gonna be rough. I don't want to be an old man, but if I was, I want to be the dad that can still hang and still dance and have drinks with my kids, and I want them to be like, dude, my dad's fun, man. And he was swinging those hips like it was Elvis in the fucking 50s. Like he was ready to. He's like, hey, I don't know. Maybe he might have asked her, for a number. I don't know. Maybe he would have said, let's go to my room real quick. I'm not sure, but there was that look in his eyes.
Yeah.
Blood pressure was up. The guy was feeling good. He was feeling good about being a man that day.
I will say, I've been around for a while, Roy and Nacha. There is that hidden part.
Yeah.
But when they're ready to party, like that last time, even at the wedding,
Oh yeah.
oh man, both of them on the dance floor nonstop. It's like that's what I want to see. That's what I like to see.
That's when like, and anything that's bothering them or worrying them or anything, all that's gone. Like they're just having a party. They're like excited for the party.
Finally having a good time.
So we had so back to the wedding. So we had she officiated the wedding, it went off awesome, and then we went off to go take some pictures with Rocio's family friend, a guy that used to live on their street. His name is Ramiro Gaitan. So last name is Gaytan. This dude is like a photography virtuoso. Like it's wild, and he's an interesting guy because he's very I would say a lot different than probably most other photographers. Like his personality always shines through whatever he's doing. He's very like excited. Like he has a real passion.
Male version of Dora.
Yeah, no, for real. Like, and
reals.
it was funny. We talked about you. I just brought up like it's weird when she's always, oh, hi, Papi. He calls me Papi too, and he's a guy. Yeah. Like he'll tell me like, Papi, put your arm on her forearm. He's not. I don't know if anyone's getting the connotation that he's gay. He's not gay, but it's like it's weird for a guy to call you Papi. I think I'm like I only know him from he took Rocio's maternity pictures, and now the wedding photos, and everyone that's seen Rocio's maternity pictures is like, holy shit, those are awesome. Like, where did you do it? So this guy, his Instagram, if you guys want to check him out, it's at Gaitan Productions. So at Gaytan Productions, or you can check him out on his website. Same thing, GaitanProductions.com. And the way Rocio has told other people, and I don't want this to come off in a bad way, but like she's like, he's a little expensive, but it's totally worth it. And what that means is expensive for a person who on a super budget, yeah, probably. But if you are having a wedding or something like maternity photos where you're like, I'd rather spend a little extra to have an amazing outcome, he's your guy. And the maternity photos thing was weird because I'd never been on like that kind of photo shoot before where it's all about us. But he's an interesting guy and easier to work with than you think. At first, it's kind of like off-putting. You're like, dude, he's making me do a whole lot of shit. But then when you see what comes out of it, you're like, oh, okay. Like he's one of those guys where he'll tell you, just trust me. He's like, this is going to be weird. This might sound weird. It might look weird. But you just trust me. I know what I'm doing. And then you have to trust him. And then sure enough, you're like, fuck. I would not have known. I would not have known that was going to look like that. And like these pictures we took between the ceremony and the reception, we were in like right along the coast in Long Beach, some little park. I forgot what it was called, Bluff Park or somewhere around there. And it was like there wasn't much to work with there other than the backdrop of the beach. But he was more interested in all the trees around. Like he had this idea like, I want to frame you guys out with a tree, and I'm like, okay, whatever that means. And like, he's a nice guy. He's just very excitable, and he's just on fire. And he's just like, all right, Bobby, put your arm under her, and like put your nose on her forehead. And I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, and so I'm putting my nose on her. It's so weird to like put your nose on someone's face. Like you don't ever hear that. But then, sure enough, when he would show us on his camera, we were like, "What the fuck?" Like that came out wild. Yeah. He only sent us 3 immediately, like 3 the next day, and that was mostly because he wanted us to post it up, like to be able to use it. Like, hey, if you want to send these out, here are just 3 basic ones. And they were like, everyone was hitting me up, like multiple. I would say like 4 or 5 people were like, who shot these? Who did this? And I was like, here's the person, whatever. They didn't have anything going on yet, but it's one of those back pocket things. Like, all right, when I have something to shoot, I'm gonna hit this guy up because it was like, they were legit pictures where you don't see the park, you don't see any of the park, you see the skyline. His editing is next level. That's where it's like, whoa, I don't even know how you did that. I don't get it. Like, it looks like someone painted pictures and stuff. So, he's located in San Dimas, California. So anyone in the area that you want like top notch quality pictures of any major event. It's Ramiro Gaitan, and I'll post if you like look in the descriptions of any description like on YouTube or whatever else I post it, it'll be there. So use that link, and trust me, like it's worth every penny. It's I mean we haven't gotten everything back yet, but the stuff we did get, we were like, oh shit, like that's that. And Rocio was very clear, like there's no if, ands, or buts about this, babe. Like we're going with Ramiro, and I'm like, I like him. He's fun. He came to the wedding too, or the reception, and he was all over taking photos and like a few videos of like all the dancing people were doing, a lot of stuff on the dance floor. And so after the pictures, we showed up for the actual reception, and the whole plan was, okay, when we show up, we want to walk in with a walk-in song, and they announce us, the way that you see it like at receptions. And we were like, okay. So we get to the house, and we're like ready for the party now. And at this point, like I'm feeling better because the photography stuff's done. You know, like that's work to me. It's like, okay, we got to take these pictures. We got to pose. We're out in the sun. Excuse me, everyone. So I'm like, now it's the party. I know I still have to do a few dances, you know, a few of those things. And then I figured the rest of the party or the rest of the reception, I'm going to be talking to everyone, you know, being a good, you know, making sure I see everyone, get some FaceTime with everyone. Get there, and we're like, okay, hey, you know, you were like, hey, let me know when you get here. I'll tell the DJ, because we had a DJ. And we're like, just let me know. You told me, let me know, and I'll have him put the song on. And it was Are You In by Incubus, because Rocio and I just fucking love that song. And it just seemed like a cool song for us to come into. Rocio really enjoys the vibe of the beach, and that song always reminds her of the beach, just being on the beach. It's called Are You In? And so I was like, I think that'd be a cool intro song, because it's not like a dance song. It's just more of like a party song. There's clapping in the song, and it'd be a good way to kind of get us out there. It's very much a song we both really like. So you're like, okay, cool. You go over and tell the DJ. But what? It's gonna sound bad. We knew, but we figured that, because what happens that every single time Rocio has something, her parents end up surprising her with something that she didn't ask for or want, and it's more for them. That's just how they are. They're like, we're gonna surprise you with something for us, and we're like, okay, whatever. Like I feel like this might sound bad, but I feel like her mom sometimes tries to steal the spotlight from her. Whenever Rocio's in the spotlight, her mom has this weird thing where she tries to get involved in it. I don't think she's aware of it at all. I don't think it's a mean thing. I just don't think she's aware that she does this. I think it's a very unconscious thing she does. Right. And I see it, and I've told Rocio about it, and I'm like, I mean, whatever. You know.
Did you understand it though?
What's that?
Nacha? Because I don't think she's
never had the spotlight. She's never been told,
even to this
good
day,
job.
I don't think they give her
they don't give
spotlight.
They don't say thank you to her. They don't show appreciation, so she goes and figures it out on her own. And I think Rocio understands that, and that's why she's like,
it's just
let her have it. So so their surprise was a banda, a little Mexican band. It was like 3 dudes. It was I think a guitar player, a bass player. I don't remember what the other guy was, but there was like an accordion, a guitar, and I don't remember what the other guy had because I didn't really see much of it. But they were playing before we got there. So you were like, okay, my job is to, when this song ends, I'll tell the DJ, and the DJ will tell them like, hey, we're gonna play this song, and then you can continue after. So Paul goes and does that, and comes back, and he just has this look on his face, and he's like, Roy, who's Rocio's dad, Roy told them one more song. So, and he's like, dude, I tried. And I was just like, I was annoyed because I'm like, I don't like when they do that, when they step over the line and they decide, this is my event now. I'm like, no, it's not your event. I know how much you guys want it to be your event, but it's not your event. And then this is going to sound even more harsh and kind of shitty. It's like, you didn't put in on this. Like, this isn't, I would understand if it was like, if the dad paid for the wedding, then I'm like, all right, I can't say much. He didn't pay for the wedding. Like, I paid for the wedding. So I'm like, but whatever. I was like, I'm not gonna start shit tonight. We're trying to have a good time. So I literally, like an asshole, I just went inside. I went back inside to the house and I just sat on the couch. I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking be out here and waiting. Like we were waiting to walk in. I'm not gonna be tiptoeing, tapping my toe like whenever they're ready. So I just went inside and sat down, and I could tell Rocio was like, oh man, like he's mad now. I'm not mad. I just not gonna be. People are walking by. Like we're supposed to. It's supposed to be like, oh hey, they're here. But if people can see us, then we're not. It ruins the whole point. So the little banda finishes their song, and then we can hear the song playing. We're like, okay, finally. So we walk in. Everyone's like, hey, yeah, you know, all excited. We did a little dance, and then we went right into like the dances. Our first dance, which was funny because again we pushed everything in 2 months, and we didn't even practice the dance or go over any of that until a few days before the wedding. And Rocio wanted to like choreograph it out with every time she says this, we're gonna. I'm like, babe. I was like, I love you, and I mean, I think I can do it. I don't think you can hang with a choreographed thing, and we only have a few days. You're putting a lot more pressure on yourself. Like, so we simplified it to where I twirled her a couple times every time she said, I don't remember what she said in the song. I can't remember the name of the song, to be honest. But and then at the end, I had to dip her. And what's funny is like I don't know the proper way to dip someone. I can figure it out, but I was like, I literally YouTubed it. I was like, I'm gonna check on YouTube how to dip. And so and the other thing is my left leg is, the leg that got destroyed in a car accident. So I have to make sure I'm not putting weight on that leg. Because imagine, you drop your bride like while you're dipping her at your wedding while everyone's watching her. So I was like, okay, we like reconfigured everything to dip to the right side because that's my regular leg. And so we're doing that. And I actually dipped a little early because it was weird. Like it's a 3-minute song, which isn't that long, but when you're kind of out there doing the same dance and the same twirl, it feels like forever. And like my whole like stand-up comedy past came in like, dude, like, you gotta finish, you gotta wrap this up soon. Like you're losing the crowd. Like I just felt like it was going on too long. I'm like, they're just watching us do this thing. I know it was just a ceremonial thing, but I was like, I better wrap this up. So I dipped her a little earlier than like I normally would have, but it was perfect timing anyway, because I just felt like, hey, you know what, we're done now, we don't need to keep this going for another minute. So I dipped her and it was totally fine, picked her up, everyone claps, and I think right after that we went into the father-daughter dance. So they danced and I got like off, and that's when I finally got to say hi to people, because it was so weird like going into a party, seeing all these people you love, and you can't really give them hugs or say hi because you went right into the dance. So I was like, okay, I can hug a few of you, but then I got to get back out there. And it was like a interesting start to that whole thing. And then it was really cool is it was an open bar situation. So we had a bartender that I found through there's a guy on this guy named Philip. For anyone that's been listening to the show, Philip. This is like 2 episodes ago, maybe 3 episodes ago. He was I keep calling him the bull in the china shop, this crazy ass dude that I just met that day. Like I didn't know him before. It was a friend of my friend Kyle Simmons. And by the way, Kyle Simmons, you motherfucker, I hope you're listening to this or watching on one of these fucking cameras, because I heard from Philip that you told Philip that you were upset with him because Philip ended up at the wedding. Philip ended up at the wedding because he was hired by the bartender. But I heard from Philip, you motherfucker, whichever camera you're looking at, I heard that you told Philip that you were upset that you didn't get invited to the wedding, and you did get invited, and I have the receipts, motherfucker. I kept that text message that clearly shows that you were invited to that and the wedding shower. You agreed to go. You RSVP'd to go to both and showed up to neither. And I'm okay with that. I don't need you to show up, but don't tell other people that you weren't invited. And, motherfucker, you were invited. Trust me. And I any day you want to see, I'll show you the text messages where you said, yeah, I said I was going to be there. And then you didn't show up. It's okay. I'm not mad at you, motherfucker. I love you. But don't say you weren't invited, because that's what, unless, and if this is just Philip making it up, then I apologize. Then I'll just shit on Philip's face instead. But so the bartender was recommended to me through Philip, and Philip, if anyone remembers that episode, a lot of people thought that I was upset with Philip, or like I was about to swing on Philip or something like that. It wasn't like that at all. Like I was being a performer. Like I was fucking with Philip because that's what I do. And I knew that people were gonna enjoy the play of him and I back and forth. I love Philip, actually. I really do love him. Like he's a nice person. I think he put on a big persona during that podcast. I think he was nervous. I think he was shy. I think he was uncomfortable. So he got really fucking drunk. And whatever came out was just him trying to perform, because when he's around people, he feels this need to be the clown, the performer. And I get that. I'm like that in a sense too. So I just think that's his way of performing, feeling better about himself. He drank too much. He passed out on my couch after the podcast. But I loved him. I love the guy. And so he told me about the bartender that we ended up hiring, and I had seen clips from, because what Philip does is he uses apps on his phone. He's got and he does like really awesome videography work just from his phone. He does really well on social media, YouTube especially. I'm sorry, Instagram especially. And so he's done some. He's gone to a few events with the bartender and filmed this stuff, and it looks awesome. Like he makes it look great, and the bartenders are great too. So he was basically like, when I asked about, hey, who anyone know of any bartenders, and then I started hitting people up. Philip was like, hey, hit up this guy. He's my homie from high school or something. So I hit up Ramirez Bartending through Instagram because I had already seen him. I seen a few other people that I follow posting stuff from them too, and I was like, okay. So the company's name is Ramirez Bartending Company, and it's this guy Eric Ramirez. Shout out to him, and Amanda, his wife. They just got married in like May, so they're newlyweds. And they run this bartending business. It's like a mobile bartending thing. A lot of you have seen that kind of thing before, where someone will show up to your event and you buy the booze, and then they either create their own drinks or you tell them what drinks you want them to make, and then they also have the ability to like, well, whatever I have here, I'll make them whatever they want. So I talked to him, and I mentioned, that Philip told me about them, and he's like, oh, that's my boy. You came to the right place, kind of thing. And I just got a really good vibe off this guy, Eric, because he's the guy I was talking to. And I was like, you can tell when someone's like a good person, even sometimes through like, text or whatever. And he was just super cool. Like, I want to make sure you guys have, the best day possible. I'll help you buy whatever you need to buy. Like, I'll tell you what to buy. He even brought a couple things that like helped out, like a few mixers that I could have got myself, but he's like, nah, don't worry about it. I have some extra. I got you. And then he has a mobile bar if you need one, or they have a mobile bar and if you need one. So the way it worked out at this wedding, like I didn't want him to be in a garage. I wanted him to be out front. So I was like, yeah, if you don't mind bringing your mobile bar, that's cool. So he brought that. And just like the two nicest people you can meet, they just, for being younger cats, like they could be assholes. They could be, party animals. They're just like super nice, professional, Eric and Amanda. And to the point where like I was at my wedding, but I was like, I want to hang out with you. Can I hang out with you guys? Like, can we be friends? Can we hang out later on? And they were taking shots with us. Like they weren't worried about. It wasn't too professional, which I don't want. I don't want too professional. I don't want someone with their arms behind their back wearing a tie and not speaking. And I don't want the fucking I don't want some kind of security guard. I want someone who can talk to people. And we had a taquero right next to them, so we were like, hey, make sure you eat. They're like, oh yeah, we already did. Like they had no problem being involved with what was going on. But they anything anyone need, they were right there to pour drinks and stuff. They helped us make a little mini menu with these 3 drinks that were specialty drinks. I don't even think many people use them for that, because most of what was going on that night was shots of Don Julio. I mean, that's going to lead on to...
Well, I'll say those drinks started.
Oh, okay, because...
They started to say, oh, let me see this menu. Oh, I'll try this.
Because we weren't... Obviously, Rocio and I weren't there for like the first hour of the reception, so that's more where you could kind of fill in. Yeah. Because that was what I was like, I didn't see that many people with like mixed drinks.
As soon as people started showing up, we talked about it, so I was kind of guiding people, like, choose a seat. This is where people are sitting at, or whoever I knew was sitting in those areas, because I know a lot of people want to sit next to certain people, so because you got a vibe going that you're partying.
Yeah, you want your table to be.
We went to that whole thing, and then I was like, "There's a bar. They'll be set up in a little bit right now, and there's a menu." Lance and Rocio came up with the names, which I think were pretty cool names, and they said, "All right, I'm gonna go check it out." Once everything was opening, they're like, I want to try this drink. I want to try this drink. And it was perfect. The names you chose, this is what they wanted. And eventually, I know what you're saying, but after.
It just turned into a shot fest. And it's like, see, that's the thing. So the wedding was at our friend Beto and Elena's house. And whenever we go, you guys are going there today, so like it's on today. But whenever you go there, you have to bring your shot pants. You gotta wear your clothes that are ready for taking shots. And I'm like, they're not gonna force you to do anything. Like like Beto and Elena, they can look very tough on the outside, but they're the sweetest people you ever meet. Beto looks like this big intimidating guy. He's a big Marine. He's like 6'2", bigger guy. He's got the beard, he's bald head. He looks like he'd fuck you up, Yeah. But he's like the sweetest guy. Like it's almost like they need you to be taken care of. Like it's not like they want it, they need it. Like they don't feel good unless they're great hosts. So, and they are fucking drinkers. They like, I don't even know how Beto exists. I don't understand it. And I don't mean like sloppy drunk. I don't mean that. Like I won't, again, I shouldn't say again, the only time I've ever seen him fucked up was the night of the wedding. And before that, I'm always blown away. Like I tell people at work when we go on walks and stuff, I'm like, I don't know how this guy's a fucking tank. He has like 20 beers, 7 shots, and then he cleans up at the end of the night and wakes up. He's the first one up in the morning to like finish cleaning whatever's going on. So I'm always like, how does he even survive? I don't get it. And what was funny was we had an open bar. There was all kinds of booze. We had a bunch of tequila. We had vodka. We had whiskey. We had rum. We had beer. We had sangria. We had everything there. And this fucking guy was running around the party with a handle, or I'm sorry, a bottle of Jack Daniel's Fire, which is like their version of Fireball. It's like a cinnamon, because they love that and they love Fireball because we take shots. Like they don't drink that shit straight, but they take shots with it. They're more beer drinkers, but they take shots. So this dude always has some kind of cinnamon whiskey on him, and almost every time I go over there, you've seen it, I just bring a bottle of I don't even like Fireball or Jack Daniel's Fire. I'll take a shot, but I'm not into it. I don't like it. I don't like flavored things that much. So, but I always bring it because it's like my offering. Like because they always provide the party, they always provide the setting. Like I don't have a house, they have a house, so they're like, come to the house and let's party.
Space.
And they just treat us so well that I'm like, I always show up, and it was funny is he always acts surprised, like, oh shit. It's because he's a nice guy. He doesn't want to be like, yeah, that's right, put it in the freezer. He's just like, oh dang, thanks, bro. Like gives me a big old bear hug, and then sure enough, seconds later, there's 8 shots poured for whoever's there. And so like before, even every time we go over there, it's like you get there and they're already at least 2 beers deep, at least a shot deep,
at least,
and then I get there and it's never like a pressure like you need to catch up, but it's like I need to have one now. Like I don't feel right being here without taking a shot, so I always bring over tequila of my own because they don't really drink a whole lot of. They don't really drink tequila much, so I bring my own. And so it's usually you're the one that will drink tequila with me. So you and I pour a shot. It's usually the 3 of us, the brothers, you, me, and Beto. We take a shot, and then it's like, oh, I might as well take one with the girls now. It's like they're almost back to back. It's like you girls want one, and Rocio's like, yeah, I'll have one. Rocio and Alicia usually go with the Fireball or the Jack Daniel's Fire route, and so it's you and I just kind of have our own little bottle. But it's just such a great feeling, and that's something I've been talking about lately too, about like, and this might sound bad, but give me a shot, give me a chance. So like Rose and Dominic see us taking shots all the time because we take shots pretty often. I mean, I don't mean during the week. It's usually on the weekends, or it's with you guys, or it's with Beto and Elena. Mm-hmm. So they've grown up in this environment where they see all the adults with big grins and smile hugging each other and taking shots. And I like the idea because I look at a shot now as I used to look at it when I was young as let's take shots to get fucked up. Now it's like this ceremonial, this way for us to get together. It's, when you cheers, you're all putting this energy into the same little circle, and you're saying it's a ritual to me. It's this ritual of togetherness, this ritual of we're all doing this together. Cheers. And then you go back to ancient times and see how that, maybe not with alcohol, but there's a lot of that sort of ritualistic thing going on. And Rose now gets to the point where she's like, I want a shot. So she has like this little red shot glass. It's like it's a plastic. It's one of those like, red cup, but it's a shot glass, and we just pour water in it, and she takes a shot with us now. And I mean, she just kind of sips on it. It's funny, but I think she just sees everyone enjoying, and I'm like, so there's a part of my head that's a little bit like, oh fuck, man, we don't want to get her into the whole idea of taking shots at 3. But then it's like, but I like that she's seeing that we're all together. It's not like Rocio and I are taking shots all day. We're not on Tuesday taking fucking shots. It's a weekend thing. It's a group thing. And so even Dom will be like, I want a shot. But he usually takes a shot of like orange juice or something. And so it's like that happens. It's because of the group that we're in. That's what we do when we go to Beto's and Elena. So I figured we'd be taking a fair amount of shots at the wedding. And we took... I mean, I don't know how many shots. At the end of the night was a little blurry for me, and we'll get into why it was the night ended in a hilarious way.
Even with the shots, and I think we talked about it. I think I talked about it with you. I know I definitely talked about it with Beto. Was I know the kid part, but what I said the last time was that I think that they're seeing a different part of a drinking thing, and I know you're saying the ceremonial part. It's more of they're not seeing the bad part. Because I grew up in the bad part where everybody was drunk, there was fights happening, there was all this shit. So they're seeing a good version of people partying. And again, when we hang out with them, nobody's really getting drunk.
Throwing up.
Besides the wedding, but everybody was definitely having a good time, and there was a good party. But prior or any other time from there, it's not like the kids are seeing everybody drunk and vomiting or anything happening. They're usually seeing the adults having a good time. There's partying, there's dancing, there's singing, so every time. So they're not. I don't see that in a bad way. And I think I mentioned it before. It was like I like that they see that.
Me too.
Because they need to see that you can have alcohol and have fun.
Yeah.
And it's not always a fight. However it happens in other families.
I think if you demonize alcohol, you're sort of missing the point of you're supposed to be in charge of what happens when you have alcohol. It's like, well, is alcohol the demon, or is your lack of control or lack of being able to, handle life? Like, that's the real problem. And I have friends that, and I'm not, I don't want to talk shit or say anything bad. I think everybody's different. So, but for me, there are times where I've had issues with drinking, but I think demonizing drinking or alcohol and demonizing it itself is more of like not wanting to take responsibility for your own actions or your own ability to say no to things. So, but back to your point, that's what the kids see. Like, they see Beto and Elena dancing with each other, hugging, kissing. They're a loving family. No one. I've never been there where people are yelling at each other. Right. I've never been there. Well, I can't say this, but no one's throwing up or anything like that. Nobody's like, stumbling around. No one's driving and, going outside and getting in a car and fucking driving, 1,000 miles down. It's not like that. It's more of just this fun environment. Again, the music playing and all that. So this night, the night of the wedding, where I'm just like, I'm digging the bartenders. I'm just like, man, we made such a good choice because they're good people. And I'm always into making new friends that are couples that are similar to Rocio and I. And, like the whole, I'm in a different phase of my life. So I can't really hang out with young party cats anymore. I can't really hang around too many people that are like just single and like, hey bro, let's fucking go to the bar. I'm not into that scene. I mean, I'm not above going to a bar. Excuse me, I'm not above going to a bar. I'm not above hanging out with a single guy or anything like that. It's just I'm not really in that environment very often. So when there's a married couple or a couple with kids, you're always like, oh, maybe, maybe we can hang out with them or something. Maybe we can invite them over for a fight because we like having people for the fight.
Yeah, we talked about possibly hanging out, having a bar time. We were trying to get something set up right before your wedding so we could do a little bachelor night. We had
to bail on that.
Yeah, me and a couple other guys. I know I said that wrong or whatever, but whatever. I'm a little bit deep in this
some bourbon. There you go. A little bit of.
We talked about a bar and it didn't happen, which was fine. But I'm not above a bar. But,
no, me neither.
But I'm with you too. Like I really don't do the bar thing.
I don't even. It's not even so much about the bar. It's more of like because I have friends that are single guys and they're in their early 30s, late 20s, and I'm not. I mean, no one's invited me anywhere, but I wouldn't be against it. It's just that like I drift towards people, obviously, like most of us do, that are in a similar phase of life. Like if you're married and have kids, or if you're just married, we're probably more likely to go hang out with you than the young cat that wants to go to Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm like, I'm not in that phase anymore. And again, nothing against it. I'm not saying I would never do it. It's just I usually gravitate towards like married people, and this couple like Eric and Amanda were just so cool, and I was happy because I want my guests to feel what I felt from them. So I was like, hey, if I feel this way, obviously they're gonna feel this way because I don't have as much time to feel anyway about them. I'm doing all kinds of other shit. But I went over there and it was weird because I met them at the wedding. It's not like I knew him ahead of time. We talked on the phone. We were texting. And so it was like, hey, nice to meet you, but I got to go do a bunch of other stuff, And so it was like a fun situation, and we took shots with them, and that's why I was like, oh, they're cool, man. They're taking shots with us, no problem. Yeah. And then we just kept coming back because other people were like, hey, I want to take a shot with you. And when it's your wedding, you don't go, nah, I've had too many, So we're having a good time. And then actually, let me give him a shout out real quick. So Ramirez Bartending Company, like they're already starting to get a lot of hype from the Whittier, Pico Rivera area because that's where they're from. I think they went to the same high school I did. I don't know. They're younger than me, so they know some people that I know. Like I talked to Amanda yesterday, and she said that she knows my little brother Cameron, and she knows my cousin Andrew, and I'm like, oh shit, small world, Like, so I saw she added me on Instagram, and I added her back, and I just scrolled down because you're like always curious, and I scrolled down and I see a picture of my cousin, and I'm like, oh shit, I know that's my cousin, So we're and I was just asking him, hey, is there anything you want me to say? And so check him out on if you want to check out the bartending page on Instagram. It's at Ramirez Bartending CO for company. So RAMIREZ Bartending CO. Or you can check them out on Yelp. They have a page there too. But they asked me to let you guys know that they're for 2023 that they're coming up with a new cocktail menu, because what they didn't have a menu before. What they would do is it was more customizable. Like, hey, do you want us to make certain things, or do you want to just have alcohol and let everyone choose their own drink? Because they're full on bartenders. Like, they can make any drink. They're not just standing there going, "Tell me how to make your drink." Like, they're bartenders, are legit. So they're coming up with a menu for next year, and a few other surprises that they didn't want me to let you guys know. But follow them on Instagram, because they were perfect. They're exactly what we wanted. Good people, took shots with us. They weren't too too. I said it earlier. What the fuck? I can't even think of it. But they were very much. What's the word? Professional. Fuck. They were very professional, but not too professional. I don't want someone who's all buttoned up. That's not our style. We're not traditional. We want people who want to hang with us, party with us. They were taking shots. They took probably together, both of them, maybe 3 shots with me and different people. Because I brought up my cousins at one point. I came up with you guys at one point. And then it was funny because Philip was there. So like, Philip hasn't seen me since the podcast where he acted a fool. So he just looked all uncomfortable, like, oh man. And I was like, "What's up, Phil?" And he's just like, and he made this shittiest joke, but it's so Phil, and it made me laugh. Like, this is why I love him. He goes, so don't you have to do whatever I ask at your wedding? Like, don't you have to grant my wish or something? And I mean, for anyone that has never seen Godfather, the first one, he had it completely wrong. It's not your wedding, it's your daughter's wedding if you're the Don. Like, there's a whole thing with that where he says he can't refuse a request on the day of his daughter's wedding. And I'm like, my daughter's not getting married, asshole. And then Eric and Amanda start laughing, and they're just like, oh god, because they're looking at it like, oh fuck, Phil's being silly. But I love Philip, so for me, again, it was like this fun play. He's like a little brother to me, almost. Like, I'm just like, I like playing this back and forth. So I was just like, God damn it, Philip. It's not me, dude. It would have to be my daughter's wedding. Then, and because he was holding the camera, and Eric had told me that he had hired Philip to do shoot. So he's gonna have some stuff pretty soon that he's gonna post, that he took videos from the wedding, and he came up on the dance floor for a little bit when we did the garter toss, which was fun, because I had told you before, I was like, hey, when we do the garter toss, I want you to be with me. Like, I had an idea of how I wanted to look, and it came out so well. The only thing is, there's a few people that took videos, but we still haven't got like a full video of the garter toss kind of thing. Not the toss, me removing the garter from her thigh. And like most other people, from what I've seen online, because I just took like a quick like YouTube search, and most other people go the route of like Genuine Pony, the song Pony from Genuine, or something like that. It's real sexual and all that. And I was like, yeah, it's funny, but I was like, I'm definitely not the kind of person that does what I saw someone else do. So I was like, I think it would be cooler for me to play it cool, like to be like this. Like, if I smoked cigarettes, it would have been that kind of vibe where like you have a cigarette and you're just playing it cool. I don't smoke cigarettes. So I was like, okay, I want bourbon. I want to drink a little bit with Paul. And I want, like, the whole idea was I'm going to be like, she's sitting there on the chair, and Paul's going to kind of be like, hey, you got to go handle this. So I told Paul, this is what I want. I want you to come up with me. We'll take a drink. And then you're kind of telling me, hey man, you need to get over there and get that garter. And I'm like, me. So if we find a video, it's pretty cool, I think. And the song I chose was Texas Flood by Stevie Ray Vaughan, because it's just a cool song. It's like one of our Friday songs when we just want to kick it and listen and drink some bourbon and listen to some blues. And it just has this long guitar intro, and I'm like, it would be cool to just kind of be like, take that whole guitar intro and just really kind of go slow, like work my way into it. So it starts, and Paul grabs me by the shoulder, and he already had 2 drinks ready for me. He went to the bartender, grabbed them, and he's like, here, drink this. And so we drank together. He's got his arm around me. He's my best man. He's just like, pointing over to her, and I'm like, I'm going to go over there. And like, people can't really hear what we're saying, so I wanted to make sure that I, was pointing and doing all this physical stuff. So it was a kind of like a, hey, get out there, kid. Here's what you got to do. And I was like, all right, cool. So I went down, and I take a really slow knee, and like right around that time, the singing part the singing part of the song starts, where he's like, well, it's flooding down in Texas. So I lean back, do a little singing part, and you hear people woo, whatever. And I do this little tiptoe thing with my fingers though, like I'm walking with my fingers up to her leg, and some people didn't see it, and some people did, and the people that did were like, oh, you know, they thought it was funny and silly, and then her dad was like right where I was, and so most people do the like scared thing, but I went the opposite way. I was like, hey, back up, because the whole time it was happening, the DJ, who's a family friend, shout out to Chris. The DJ's on the microphone telling me, hey, chill, back, hey, be respectful, her dad's right there, totally playing into what I'm doing, you know, like the whole thing where it was just cool, like for as short as it was only a couple minutes, like maybe 3-4 minutes long, but it was cool because he totally played into the, hey, you know, what are you doing? Her father's right there, have some respect, you know, like giving me shit about it. And then I'm like, hey, back up, Roy, back up. And then people started laughing at me, telling me to back up. And Rocio, you know, she's not a very like outwardly sexual person, so I wasn't gonna be overly sexual either and get all creepy. It's like, this is supposed to be fun for everyone else, like, you know, she doesn't want me accidentally pulling on anything, you know, like pulling her underwear down or anything like that. So it was just a quick thing. I take it off, and it was a cool, I thought it was cool. And I don't think our friend Chris has like a name for the company or anything, but he's DJ'd a few events for us before, and then he was also the guy that owned the company that did the taquero work. So shout out to Chris. And he's just like such a good dude. Like he showed up the night before to help set up, and he was so excited. He was excited for like the party, excited for, like, he's just a good dude. He just always has this good attitude, very positive, very party mindset of like, let's go. And he was excited. You guys, oh my, you know, he considers Rocio family and me by extension. So he's just real fun to have around, and he did a great job with the DJing part. And then his crew did the taquero stuff, and everyone fucking loved that. So that was great. And then we had a photo booth there that Rocio's friend, shout out to LDM Photobooths. Rocio's friend owns this photo booth thing, and it's her and her husband, and they do this. I mean, I've seen them before, but this seems like a high-tech photo booth. It's like this little thing on a stand, and you basically pick whatever you want. Like if you want a video, you want a boomerang, you want pictures, they do that. And then it's very customizable, and it's super easy to use, and you can either get the picture sent to you, or you can go check out a link later on. So that was pretty cool, because I missed the first hour of being there, but it seemed like most of the pictures that came out were from that time, because people were just hyped to get over there and take pictures. So shout out to LDM Photo Booths. If you want to check them out on Instagram, it's LDM_photo booths. They also have a Yelp page. You can check them out there. They're located in Pico Rivera, so I'm not sure what their area of coverage is, but if you're anywhere near Pico, thank you, bud. Check them out, because it was a part of the party that made the party, if that makes sense. Like everyone that I've talked about so far made the party, but I mean, I went over there for a little bit with Rose, because there was a point where Nacha, who was watching Rose, I think she just got tired of watching Rose. Nothing. I mean, Rose wasn't doing anything, but it's like, it's hard to just watch a baby for 2 hours. Not a baby, a 2-year-old for 2 hours. You know, she's an older lady, so I just took over at one point, and Rose and I were taking pictures. But Rocio was fucking cutting up a rug, dancing. Rocio was drinking that night, because we were taking shots with like everybody. Yeah. And Rocio's not a big drinker, so. I mean, I went over to take a few pictures, and I was really with Rose. Like, this is where we kind of separated, Rocio and I. Rocio's with her friends, and they're dancing and stuff. I went over, was watching Rose for a while, came back, and I'm like, dang, Rocio's a little lit up. And I'm like, because she was dancing like a lot, and there's a look on her face where I was, you know, I don't see it very often, but I was like, oh yeah, she's buzzed. Like, this is new territory. And she was just living the dream. It was her wedding, you know, like she was, and I'm glad she enjoyed it. She had a good time. When we did the dollar dance, that was interesting, because, you know, I'm like, okay, I got to dance with women, and it not be like it's not my girl. It's like other women. She's more of like, you know, slow dancing, and I'm like, just keep it simple. We're having conversation. And then, after the women, my male cousins came over and just basically fucking, you know, molested me.
Manhandled you.
I had one cousin behind me, another cousin in front of me, and they're like, you know, freaking on me. And then fucking Paul shows up and stuffs money down my pants, and it was everyone was laughing at that point, because it was like, Rocio's having these nice, respectable dances with gentlemen, and then I'm getting molested by dudes. But it was a ton of fun. And then you could tell, like, right after that, like, Rocio was very lit up. Like, Rocio was drunk, and it was, for me, it was funny because it's like, again, I don't see her that very often. So it was a nice surprise. Right. And see, at this point, this is where it gets interesting, and it gets a little fuzzy. I don't remember all this because end of the night, I was pretty lit up, but I was fine. Like, I was watching Rose. I was making sure everyone was still doing well, and I don't remember how I stumbled upon this, but I hear Rocio. Because, okay, so there's a house, and then there's like a little casita house in the back that Beto's mom lives in. It's basically what you would consider like a studio, but it's a house. It's like a little house built on the side. It's a studio that has its own bathroom. And his mom was out of town, so he's like, hey, if anyone has to use the restroom, just go in there. Like, it's fine. Just go right there in that bathroom, because it's a full bathroom, and it has a shower in it. And so I don't remember how exactly. Maybe I just walked by and I heard it, but I heard Rocio, like, like yakking, and I was like, oh dang, so I went in there and I checked on her, and she was like a mess. She was fucking drunk, and like, Rocio never gets like this. I haven't seen Rocio that drunk. Actually, I've never seen her that drunk, but I haven't seen her drunk in a long time. She's not a big drinker, and she doesn't like the feeling of it.
Right.
So I'm like, oh fuck. And so I go in there, and she's on her knees in her wedding dress trying to throw up, but she's like, weaving, like, whoa, like wobbling around, like, oh, and I'm like, oh, so I grab her. She just goes in full on dead weight mode, and I'm like, oh fuck. And that backyard has like the worst reception, I like, as far as cell phone reception. I don't know what it is. Like, other people have told me, like, yeah, we never get reception here. So I'm like, okay, she's dead weight. I can hold on to her, but I'm going to need help with helping her throw up, because she had fallen on top of me and I was leaning back. Yeah. And so I was trying to call people, but it wasn't going through, and I didn't want to be yelling, help, help. I don't want to scare anyone. So I was like, fuck, maybe I'll get, maybe I'll get a bar. And finally I got a bar. So I called Paul, and I'm like, dude, she's like passed out on me. Like, she's wasted. I need help. Can you call the girls? Or I just said I need help, and Paul fucking called the greatest NASCAR team I've ever seen in my life. Like, two girls walk in. First, it's Elena. Shout out to Elena, the captain of the squad, that's Beto's wife, and she's just like a badass. She's had 4 kids, so she's kind of seen everything. You know what I mean? Like, she's very motherly. And she's very tough too. Like, she has both sides of her. She's got the tough side, and she's got the very nurturing side. So she walked in stone faced with Alicia, and they both just like grabbed her from me. Like, we got this, move along, sir. And I was just like, oh damn. I mean, they didn't say it that way, but it was like that. Yeah. We got this. Don't worry. Cause I was like, fuck, they just, like a NASCAR team, just were like, like Elena just snatched her bra off her like effortlessly, because she started to like, she got like dirty. I think she might have thrown up maybe on her arm, or I don't know what. I wasn't in there when it happened. Snatched her bra off of one pool. Alicia put her fingers in her mouth to help her throw up, because she was gagging, but she wouldn't throw up. Yeah. So she was just went right in there like a champ, just like, here you go. And she was like, what the fuck's going on? Someone's taking her bra off, someone's putting fingers in her mouth. She's like, what's going on? So they just took over, and I think her friend Marisol came in too. Yeah. So the 3 of them were like coordinating getting her to throw up. Then they took her in the shower. They showered her, and I'm outside going like, what the fuck? But at that point, I was lit up too. So I don't really remember a whole lot after them taking over. And then I just remember at the end of the night that they were like, fuck, she's fucked up. We got her to throw up. We don't think she's gonna throw up on herself anymore. Yeah. But we got to put her to bed. And we had rented out a hotel room, or we booked a hotel room. And so the plan was, we were finally gonna get one night. And I'm not even talking about in a sexual sense, but just one night without the kids. Like, fuck, one night of just, it's our wedding night. We're going to go there and just enjoy it. We'd already checked in the day before. It was a 2-day thing. Rocio, Alicia, and her friend Marisol and Rose stayed there the night before and had like a little girls' night sort of thing. And so it was finally, we're going to get to stay there. And she got so fucked up that we're like, there's no way you can put her in a car and take her there, and then I'll like drag her into the hotel room. Like, they were like, hey, since grandma's not here, just put her in the bed. And I was like, all right. So, and Paul and Alicia are like, so what are you going to do about the hotel room? Like, I guess you guys got a hotel room for the night. Fucking congratulations. So what was funny was Rocio was in the bed, but she was like in the middle of the bed, and it's a small bed because it's just one lady who sleeps there. So it was a small bed, and I was just like, fuck, I'm I don't want to push her over to where she's all squished. She's clearly had a rough night. And so I was like, well, I guess she has like a little love seat. So I slept the night of my wedding. I slept on like a 5 foot, maybe 6 foot love seat where I had my knees up to my stomach and I was on my side. Yeah, right. It was like 5.5 maybe. Oh man. So I just woke up the next morning just like, what the fuck? Like I knew what happened, but I was like, damn, that really happened. Like I fucking passed out on, I passed out on the love seat. And what was funny was when I went back out there, everyone else had left. So it was like the end of the night. Everyone was kind of like, I think the DJ kind of made a joke about it out loud that Rocio was gagging or yakking or whatever. So I think people were like, well, might be time to head out then. I don't really know. I wasn't out there. I was in the room trying to make sure Rocio was okay and like hanging around there. So that's how the fucking wedding ended. And I started talking about it earlier, but Beto was running around the party with that bottle of Jack Daniel's Fire, and I remember being like, "Hey, there's a full bar there, and you don't need." He's like, "Nah, this is my shit. Like, this is what I like to drink." So he was running around pouring people shots too, and taking shots with everyone because he's a shot animal. And he got fucked up at the end of the night. I remember seeing him kind of stumbling, and I was like, "Hell yeah, Beto!" Like, damn, because I've never seen him stumble before. But I didn't know how bad it was. I guess he went into the room because Elena stayed out obviously to help Rocio. He went into the room and like fell and hit his face and then he like threw up all over the room. So he had a rough night too. And I remember the next morning I wake up early, like 7 a.m. because I obviously not sleeping in a comfortable position, and I'm still wearing I changed my shoes, but I was in socks at that point, but I was wearing what I wore to the wedding, and it was just so weird to wake up not how you thought it was gonna end. I didn't think I was gonna end up on a little love seat on the night of my wedding, and Rocio's like in somebody else's pajamas and a sweater. And so I go out, I check on her, she's fine. She's like, I just feel like shit. Like she was still hungover till like noon that day. So I wake up at like 7, and I'm like, now I gotta go out and help clean up because I'm awake. Nobody else is out there. As I walked out, Elena walks out, and so we both walked out at the same time. Lena's ready to help clean up. So it was just like Elena and I for like an hour and a half because you guys were at the hotel kind of helping clein up because we left all of our stuff.
Rough night.
So
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you made a mess all over the sheets, pal. So Elena and I were cleaning up, just kind of laughing at how the night ended. And so I'm telling, I'm over here like, oh, my wife. And then she's like, my husband. She tells me what happened to Beto, that he hit his nose on a dresser and that he like fucked up his ankle and that he threw up all over the room. So the rest of her night was helping Rocio with her whole thing, then going over and cleaning up vomit in the room and getting her big ass husband, you're like 6'2", just big muscular dude, into the bed. So her and I are cleaning up. We cleaned up like I would say half of what needed to get cleaned up with like as far as decorations. And then Beto comes out like hobbling. His ankle's all fucked up. He's got a mark on his nose. It's all red. And he's just like, I fucked up last night. I don't know what happened. And we were just laughing. And then we cleaned up and then checked on Rocio a couple more times. But it was just one of those like super fun nights. I would love to have a party again where it's not our wedding, just so we can because we had a lot of fun, but it just seemed like, I think a lot of people say this about their wedding, like it seems like it goes by really fast and you're busy the whole time. Because I didn't want to be that guy that's, I'm just getting drunk. I went and talked to, I had long conversations with people I haven't seen. My friends from the Midwest came out, the ranks. That was awesome. I talked to David probably way longer than I talked to anyone else. So shout out to David and Ashley and Samuel. It was very important for them to be there, their family to me too. So I introduced them to my cousins, and my cousins were really digging them because they don't meet too many people who were born and raised in the South. So they lived in, I guess that part of Missouri is still southern, but so it was interesting having them there. There was a lot of kids running around having a good time. Dominic was living the dream because a lot of his friends were there and cousins were there. So he was kind of the big kid there. That was, hey, this is my parents' wedding. I'm in charge kind of thing. He was digging that. Just overall like a super fun night, and I just want to thank everybody who was there. Again, all the people that like helped with the like the setup. You, Alicia, Beto, Elena, you guys really like made it easy for us. I mean, it wasn't easy, but way easier than it could have been.
Yeah.
And so I had a great wedding. I'm very glad that we got it done early because now I don't have to do this again in May. I can't wait to we're having Rose's party, so that's gonna be fun. Rose turns 3 on the 12th, and then happy early birthday to you too, Paul.
Thank you very much.
It's birthday's on Wednesday, so anyone is listening to this and it's Wednesday, or you can remember. Toast to Paul. Send us a video or a picture of you with a shot for Paul on Wednesday the 7th. Big birthday boy here. Happy birthday to you.
Post them. I want to see the pictures.
Send them on over, and you sons of bitches. Also, obviously, happy birthday to baby Jesus, right? On this one. That's the 3rd birthday. And then I wanted to do something real quick with you, Paul. It's a very serious game I want to play here. It's a little lightning round with questions, and I want you to answer them honestly and quickly. Don't think about it too much, okay? First question: who's your favorite brother-in-law? Go.
Lance.
All right. Who's your favorite long-haired dude that you hang out with at least 3 times a week?
But Lance.
All right. Who's your favorite person to watch MMA with?
Lance.
All right. And what's your favorite podcast that you've ever been a guest on?
Mouthpiece Moment.
You go.
Damn.
How you like that lightning round?
Woo.
You know what?
Woo.
I'm just glad you answered it honestly. And you know what? I totally didn't expect all that, but but cheers to your lightning round. Cheers to your birthday.
Thank you.
Is there anything you actually? I don't know. Is there anything you want to talk about? Because I know we kind of went over this really quick, just the stuff we're doing. But
just reflecting on the wedding. I mean, it was a lot of fun. You were talking about Beto. At one time, I seen him taking shots with the taquero, the taco guy.
Oh yeah.
And he's actually tilting the bottle. He didn't have a shot glass with him. So he's tilting, and I'm telling Elena, his wife, like, oh, I seen him. She's like, he's what? And I was like, oh yeah, he had the bottle. He didn't have a shot glass. He was pouring shot glasses for everybody else, but he was sucking down the bottle.
Yeah.
So I can understand
what happened,
where he went. Such a good time, and again, rare that I ever see him like that either.
It was weird. Like I saw him stumbling, and he's a big guy, and he's the happy-go-lucky, smiley guy that like you can't miss him. He's a big guy, so you see him. You know what's funny too? Something that happened at the wedding was like I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I brought this up to my friend at work, and he was like, "Nah, you're right," but I don't know if maybe other people have a different idea of like what the banda is supposed to do or whatever, but because they looked like the grumpiest fucking banda ever. It was just 3 old men, and they were angry the whole time. They didn't smile, they didn't clap, they didn't. And there was a dance floor, so like the DJ was at the very back end of the dance floor, and then there was a dance floor in front, and I guess they decided that's where they were gonna play. That's fine, but when they weren't playing, they just stayed there. So it's like, hey guys, it's not your turn anymore. Like you might want to move. And they were just standing there all grumpy and shit with their equipment, and to where like the photographer Ramiro, because he's trying to take pictures, and these 3 grumpy men are just standing there. So like he told them, like, in not, I wouldn't say aggressive, but just in a very fire way, like, can you move? You guys are just standing in the way. I'm trying to take pictures. And they finally moved, but they just wouldn't leave. They were just standing there. Like even when we were doing dances, they were just kind of like hands on hips, like so we're like, do you guys want to drink or like food? Just go around, like you're in the way. And like I don't know if that's just how it is. I've seen a few bandas before, and they usually have an area, and then when they go take breaks and stuff, like they're like, okay.
I don't think Rosilio's dad
explained anything
them or even mentioned, hey, food and drinks on that side, help yourself, because they were already on break. Eventually they went that way. But even with the photographer Ramiro, I've known him prior to this. So, and I mentioned to you before. So at one point, I said, "Hey, are you gonna have a shot with me today?" I haven't hung out with him in years, and he was like, "You know what, Papa? I'm gonna have a shot with you today." He goes, "But I'm only having one, and that's all I'm having."
Okay.
And it was good because even my wife Alicia, she's seen us, and I told her we're gonna have a shot together, and she was like, "Oh, okay." And he was like, "Yeah, I can't tell Papa no." Dang. So we went. We had our tequila. I had a shot with him, and it was a good shot, and only because we talked about the shots, the way we hang out with people. It was like time hadn't passed.
Yeah, I haven't seen him since the maternity photos, which was 3 years ago. And he seemed like the same kind of guy. You could tell he's got this shining through personality that like he's just happy, he's excited for you, and it's the other thing that I think comes across very very strong, and this is good for anyone that's thinking about booking him, is he's got this like duty to you, like he's got a duty to get it right. What we told us that was interesting, and the other side of my brain's like maybe it was just good salesmanship, but he was telling us he's like I keep seeing this picture in my head of like this tree frame I want, and I haven't gotten it yet. He's like, I think we're done, but I don't have what I need. Like I need a little bit more. There's something in my mind that I'm seeing that I haven't taken the picture of it yet. So we were looking around and we found this other tree, and when we got close to it, he was like, oh, this is what I was seeing. So he took the pictures and he was showing us, and he's like, you know, every other photo shoot I've ever done, like I always leave a little bit disappointed because he's like, there's usually like this one thing I didn't get. Not saying it went bad, not saying that it wasn't great. It was great. It went great. It's going to look great. But he said he always feels like there's one little thing that he had pictured that didn't come up. All the 9, like let's say there was 10 things, he got 9 out of 10, and there's just one shot that he didn't get. And then that's why he was looking for that other tree, and he finally found this tree that we went under, and he had us in all kinds of crazy angles. Like we were standing in between two fucking tree, you know, two not even branches. I guess no, it was just the two like stubs of the tree. It split out in like a V. It was dangerous. We were standing in a very dangerous position, and I had to like hold on to her very strong because we have to look like we're not trying hard, but we're trying hard to hold her because she was at a weird
definitely
angle.
Don't want to fall.
Yeah, and then like he was just like, I have this vision of and so he got what he wanted, and he's like, he just had this big like a little kid look on his face. He was all smiling. He's like, every other time I've done a photo shoot, I always feel like I miss this one thing. He's like, but we stuck around and I found it, and it was this. And he's like, I've never felt so good. And again, not to be naive, that could totally be what he says to everybody. But I felt it. Like it was like he had a different look on his face. He looked like a little kid. Like he was just like, wow, I got it. Like he was
very artistic.
And we told him, we were like, hey, if you want to come to the reception, like you're more than welcome. He's like, oh, you like, you need me to shoot a few things? We're like, no, we're inviting you as our, like we told you before, but we're saying like, if you want to come, because we knew we figured he wanted to go back home because he had an assistant with him. Like they probably want to go back home and fucking either work on the thing, or he just worked an 8-hour shift or 6-7 hour shift. So maybe he wants to go home to his wife and not be at a wedding. Yeah. So we were like, hey, if you still want to come around, and he's like, oh, well, I might stop by. Because he looks at Rocio like an extended family member. And so he's like, yeah, I'll stop by. And we're like, all right, cool, because it's not too far from here. So like 5 minutes into the drive, he calls Rocio and he's like, hey, you guys going to do like the garter toss and all that stuff? And she was like, yeah. He's like, all right, I'm bringing my equipment now. Like, I'm not just going to come as a guest. Like I want to work it. And we were like, what the fuck? So him and his assistant came and they shot video and it was mostly the assistant doing video, but he shot photos of the event, and he was up in there. Like I said, he told the Banda to move out of there because he was like, you're in the way, like you guys don't need to stand here. You're not playing anymore. Like they were literally done, and they just standing there with their equipment and like, you're on the dance. People want to dance. They don't want to move around a grumpy dude. Like, so shout out to Ramiro again. It was the whole thing was just so fun. It just, again, it seems like, oh man, it would have been, can we do that again? But not, can we just have a party? Like, I just want to have a party like that because it was so fun, and everyone that was there was people we loved, and it was cool having my cousins there. The only people from my family that we invited was my cousins, my tia, so their mom, and then my other tia who would have showed up, but she had like a crazy surgery on her ankle. So shout out to Tia Lucy and Tia Carmen, because they were the ones that, I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about anyone else. I didn't invite anyone else in the family. So, but everyone that I invited out in that sense showed up, and that's why I invited them, because I knew they'd show up, and because I love them and I want to be around them. So shout out to them. And man, my cousin David, and shout out to David, because man, he gave me a speech of all speeches, and like I know, like him and I have been close for 10 years or so. We weren't that close when I was a little kid because there's like a 7-year age difference. So it's hard to have a closeness when you're 7 years difference. But as adults, we became close friends. We just have a similar sense of humor. We both like the same kind of sports, the same teams, sorta. And it's mostly the sense of humor that bound us together. And so like he when he hugged me, he gave me this speech about just, it was and again, I'm not saying this to give myself a pat on the back. It's just more of like, when it's nice to tell people how you feel about them, be honest about it, and it doesn't always have to be at the right time. And this just happened to be a great time. But he's he's older than me, and so I've always looked at him as like an older cousin. But I always feel like I bond. I mean, you're an older guy. I bond better with older guys. People a little more mature, a little older, more life experience, because I feel like I'm at that level. And so he just told me that he looks up to me, and that he was so proud of me because he saw all the struggles from when I was young. When I was in my early 20s, he was around. He was always a guy that was like, you gotta not talk about your dad that way. You gotta go talk. He always was like, always doing the other stuff. Like you have to hang out with your family. You gotta go be cool with them. And I was like, you don't understand. And I was so angry and stuff. And so he saw all those times when I was a fucking asshole, a fucking idiot, and wild, of crazy drunk. And he was just like, man, I you're like a real man. He's like, he just told me like that he respects me so much, and he's just so proud of what has happened from then till now. Mm-hmm. And he said, he's like, I know I can trust you, like as far as your idea of what you see in the future. He's like, because everything you said happened, like everything,
right?
Everyone you mentioned, everything you said about people was true. And he's just like, shoot, you did it, Papa. Like, he calls me Papa. That's like a funny thing because it's funny to call, but he gave me the speech of all speeches, for that day. I was just like, wow, because I know he loves me. I know he thinks well of me, but it's always nice to hear that from someone that knows, to someone that's seen, and someone that knows what I've been through. And it's not just hearing it from somebody else or not hearing it from me. Like he saw it. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, wow, man, it made me feel good. I don't get too many of those speeches because I'm such a lone wolf sometimes, and I'm such a strong-minded person that people are like, he doesn't want to hear that, but I would love to hear that, and I heard it, and it made me feel great. So thank you again, David, and I'm just so happy that he has his girl, because he was a single dude for a long time, and I don't mean single like he couldn't get girls, because he's a good-looking dude. He's he can party, he can hang, he's cool. He's like a real cool dude. Like he knows a lot about music. Very, very, very knowledgeable about sports, especially the 90s. Like that was his heyday as far as sports went. So I know a lot of girls that liked him and thought he was cool, but he just had this hang up that I always was like, I was, again, similar to how he felt about me, being like, you gotta do this. And I was always like, man, you gotta stop fronting on these girls and give these girls a chance. And he'd be like, nah, I got my daughter. That's my only girl that I'm like, that's so dumb. Like, it's okay to be in love. And I'm glad that he didn't listen to me back then. I'm glad he waited out, because his girl Angie is like perfect for him. They're so perfect. And I'm like, I'm not going to say shit for the rest of my life. Like, I'm glad you held out. I'm glad you didn't I'm glad you fronted on all those girls, because Angie is such a like perfect woman for him. And she's so cool. Like every time I'm around Angie, I'm like, Angie, can I be like you? Like, can I be cool like you, Angie? Like, like, can you talk to Rocio, because we all hang out? They just don't live close to us. I feel like if they live in like Ontario, but if they lived near us, I feel like I'd be hanging out with them about half as much as I hang out with you guys. Like, that's how close I am to Dave and how cool we are and everything.
Well, they mentioned about going to their place or something. So, hey,
I told you that? Oh, because you have family over there too.
Well, not just that. It was just I think. Even with the wedding shower and
the vibe
at that time, he was like, oh, do you remember? I don't remember, but I only met him once.
The background is that my cousin David went to high school with Alicia, who's your wife. So they knew each other from back then, from high school. They weren't, I don't even know if they were in the same grade or anything, but they just knew of each other. Yeah. They were aware of each other. So and then so my cousin David and his younger brother Eric, my cousin Eric, shout out to him. He gave me, oh my god, man, the hug I got from him. He's just a big ass, buff, sexy ass dude, and he was on the podcast. I don't know what episode it was, maybe like 85 or 8. No, the year he was born, so it was 86. That's interesting. He told me that. So episode 86, he was there too, and he was they played for the Whittier Redskins. They played football when they were young. And so they played football. The older brother, their oldest brother, Ruben, played football with Alicia's brother, Ruben. So the two Rubens played football together, two thug-ass dudes. Because Whittier Redskins in the 90s, there was hood. There was some hood-ass kids there that were just badass dudes. And both of these Rubens were that person. Both of them, had some time in prison and did some illegal stuff in their day. So there's a connection between that part of their my family, my cousins, and Rosillo's brother and Alicia. So there's always there's these little small world connections when you're in Whittier. There's a lot of people that know each other. I know you didn't grow up in Whittier, but like you ended up there later on. But there's always that connection. I'm sure that's probably where he was like, oh, maybe I seen you here and there at this party or there.
Very cool dude. Especially when at the end of the wedding, he was like, you guys have to come over. We're gonna get together. Lance, we've been trying to get something planned out, and I was like, I'm in.
Yeah, and they have kids, but none of them are like small children. Like I think the youngest is like 14, and then so they have, I think, I don't know for sure. I'm not gonna act like I do. But I think Angie's kids are like, I think one of them is an adult, and the other one's like a senior in high school, and then they have like a 15-year-old, or she has a 15-year-old, and then my cousin David, his daughter is like 14 or 15. So they're not little kids, so it's different. It's not like we can take the kids somewhere. It's like their kids are fucking they're teenagers, they're adults, so they're like they can do their own thing, and it's just we just haven't been able to figure it out. We were supposed to all go to a UCLA game. But they're like, what about this day? And I'm like, oh, that doesn't work. I'm like, what about this day? And they're like, that doesn't work. So we never made it happen. But we talked about for sure making it happen next year. And it was, I'm just so happy, man. Like, it was such a good time. And it's what we wanted. It was a party. It wasn't this ceremonial thing. Like, we didn't go super traditional. We did a few of the wedding things that I know Rasir really wanted. Yeah. There's a link. If anyone wants one, hit me up. There's a link to all the pictures that all of the photo booth pictures. If anyone wants it, I have it. So I'll hit me up on Instagram or text or whatever, and I'll send that to you. I think for me that's everything that I had. Is there anything else other than the?
No, we were trying to get this podcast back on track, and last thing I think we talked about this week was we do not want to fucking be at work.
No, I mean that's just how it is. I mean,
but it was.
See, I feel like I bought this camera, and so that's the one thing I feel like I've been like a lot of people have been asking about. I've always lacked the whole having the camera on thing, because one, I don't like to half-ass very much. Like I would like, this is a nice camera, so I was like, if I'm gonna do it, I need to have a nice camera. But then also the problem that I would run across was there was a few times where other people would hold up their phone during podcasts to record something, and people act different when the camera's on.
Right.
There's just and it's understandable. Not everybody's a performer. I feel like I'm a performer. I've been on stage. I've had hundreds of people watching me doing something. I've had 20 people. I've had 5 people. I've had one person watching me perform. I've done that. So to me, I don't think I act any different or I do anything different, but I know it's uncomfortable for the average person to have a camera on them. And I don't want people to be disingenuous because they know a camera's on them. And this podcast has always had a sort of integrity of telling the truth and being open and honest and telling how you feel and saying things that maybe certain people might not want to hear. But we do that here. We open up, we get vulnerable. So having a camera sort of takes away from the vulnerability for certain people. So I was always like, but I see the importance of having a camera now and being able to share clips here and there, because I feel like a lot of cool stuff is said on here that people don't give a time of day. And I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking about the people I have on. There's every guest I've ever had on has had at least one gem, like one beautiful piece of art or poetry or something to give to other people that I think is important for people to hear. And if you don't listen to the whole episode, you might not hear it. So I feel like at this point now, had a good year at work, and I could afford the camera, and I'm like, I could afford it before, but you always have that feeling about all the crazy shit going on with, we didn't know if there was going to be a food shortage at the end of last month. There was a lot of talk about that. A lot of crazy shit going on with digital currency. So there's always that little piece of you that's like, it's hard to pull the trigger, but I'm not afraid to make better content. I'm not afraid of making money with what I do here, because I know there's a lot of worth in what we talk about. This episode was a lot of fun about a wedding and all that, but we did talk about some interesting topics that I think some people could benefit from learning and hearing. And you've been on a bunch of episodes before. You've been on episodes with people where you've heard some stuff, and you've been on episodes where you've given some stuff that was real, that was like, you've cried on this podcast, and that was a big deal, because not everyone wants to see that. Not everyone wants to be that person that does that. Not everyone wants to get that deep in their own feelings to let it all out on there on a podcast. And then, on the other side of things, you've been on episodes with, like Jalen Turner, where you got to hang out with a UFC star at this point. And I didn't treat him like a star. I didn't talk to him like I was goo goo gaga. Like, I broke into him who he was. And I found out, and that's why he liked to be on, he's been on 3 episodes. Like, I'm not paying him to be on the show. I don't give him anything. He shows up because I think I can see people. I could see who you are. I could see the real you. I don't care about celebrities. I don't give a fuck about your celebrity status. Most of the people I've had on the show are not celebrities. They're people that I find interesting, and I try to put whatever I find interesting about you onto a pedestal, and I think that comes through. And I feel like you got to see that side of Jalen where, the conversations we had after the podcast ended and before the podcast started, you got to see he's a different person than what you expect. You see, just like everyone else, he gets nervous about doing a podcast. He gets there's things he didn't say on the podcast that he said after the podcast, and
on the podcast and in the ring, like, I see his 2 sides, and I'm like, damn, and I'm glad I was a part of his podcast because I hadn't met anybody in the MMA, and I know you're a big MMA person.
Yeah,
so,
you and I talked so much about it.
Yeah, and what people don't know is that, I do ask a lot of questions, especially with US MMA and certain things, because you have an insight I don't have, especially when it comes to MMA. But to hear you talking about Jalen, even his previous podcast, and I was able to be on one with him, totally cool, dude. It was cool to just sit with him, and it was just a real person. It wasn't like you said, it wasn't a celebrity. He was a real person.
He's a young kid. At the time he was a young cat who was trying to figure out how to support his family, like, and that episode I wanted you to be on for multiple reasons, but I was like, hey, this is something we're getting into MMA, it's something that I've forced you to sit with me and listen to my nonstop rants about what's going on, because I think it's like, if you know what's going on, it's so interesting. The whole MMA world is interesting, and I've met several MMA fighters. I've had them several on the podcast, and they're my favorite people in the combat world to talk to. And I mean, anyone that's quote unquote into any sort of art, which could be comedians, musicians. MMA fighters are probably my favorite because there's something a little bit off about them, because they what they do for a living is so one-on-one, scary. Every time, I mean, as tough as they are, most of them admit that when you're getting into a cage or an octagon, that you could die in there. Like, I mean, it's not like it's only, no one's ever died in the cage as far as I know. But you can suffer major injuries in there, and you literally feel like you're locked in a cage with someone who wants to kill you. And so what I love about that is the psychology of it, and the idea that there's nowhere to go if you want to be successful. This is it. To me, it's like this other plane, this other level of one of the most human things you can do is get into a cage and quote unquote fight to the death. Now, what I don't want to make that seem like it's a barbaric thing, because it's not. It's artistic to me that you're putting together everything you trained for, and you are trying to finish this person. And most of the fighters I met aren't like, they're not trying to kill anyone. Like, they understand that they fell into this world where it's a lifestyle. It's different. It's not a 9 to 5. It's not, you don't get vacation. It's like, you can take time off, but you're sort of taken away from what you do. And so I've been into MMA since 2005, 2004 ish. So for me, there's a lot of knowledge there. I'm not gonna act like I've sparred very much or trained very much with fighters, but I do feel like if I didn't destroy my leg when I was 20, that's a world that I definitely would have fallen into. I dig it. I love it. I think it's cool. I think even now I could hang at the level of training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or even sparring here and there, but I would never want to waste anybody else's time with an injury. Like, I wouldn't ever want to be like, hey, you got to take it a little easy because of this leg. So there's a block of my mind there that does show some part of fear that's irrational, because it's like, I mean, they're not going to blast you in the knee with a kick, but so part of it is me being like, oh yeah, no, I could hang, but I won't because of my injury. There is part of that. That's true. Like, I see that too. But then there's other part of me that's like, I mean, I'm getting Dom into it. I'd rather focus with that. And I go to these practices with Dom, and I see, like, adult jiu-jitsu, and I see the adult MMA, and I'm like, I would have loved that at 20,
Yeah.
21, 25, 30. I would have loved it.
Not only that is like, I think at the same time, you probably would have loved that at his age.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Just like,
See, I would have been
damn.
scared at his age. I wasn't
Yeah.
as tough physically in a fight as Dominic is. That's the one area where he's got me just killed because he is a barbarian. But because I was a little bitch
He
back
has
then.
no fear. Well,
when
he has
it comes
fear
to fighting,
when
he
it comes
doesn't.
to that.
No, he's a barbarian when it comes to fighting. I was a little bitch when I was at his age because my dad never taught me how to fight, and he made it very clear, like, if you hit your brothers, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. And so it was like, well, who do I have to hit then? If I get in trouble at school, I'm in trouble. If I hit my brothers, I'm in trouble. You didn't teach me how to fight, so fighting was scary to me. I was afraid of it. But had I gone, if I was forced to get into like some sort of mixed martial arts, because they didn't have that when I was a kid. It was karate or I don't know what, I can't even think of what else they had around, and especially on Whittier. There was no one in Whittier that was doing that. It was like
Boxing
just
was already
karate.
dying out.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like I would have, if I would have gone into maybe like late teens, maybe, but I was still stuck in the sports world where I was just like, it's football. I'm playing football and that's it. Like that's the toughest thing you could do. And then you learn like, no, there's a few other tough things that you can do than football, you know. But I as in my early 20s, I really feel like it would have been awesome to be in the MMA world, and then even 30s, even like right now, I would love to go train just because I would love to test myself. But there's that block of the knee, and it's like it sounds like such a little bitch thing to say, but it's just true. Like if anyone had the knee situation I have, you would understand. Like it's just there's just out of nowhere one day, all of a sudden it just knee stops feeling good and it's clicking and it hurts. Like every time I try to start running, I'm like, but I really do have to get over that. I have to figure it out. But either way, I know you've been on a lot of these episodes and you've seen different people, and I feel like now that the wedding's over and now that there's we have some video footage here, I think we're gonna blow it up soon, and so I'm sure you'll if there's anyone else you ever want to be on with, you let me know and I'll make it happen because I do look at you as a brother. I think both of us have situations with our own family, and in the last 2 to 3 years, I think especially this year, we've really like gotten close to where I do see you as a brother, and I know you know that, I know you've heard that, and it's great to have the brotherly thing, because I have a lot of friends that I call my brothers. I'm like, I don't call them my brothers, but I say, hey, love you, brother, that kind of thing. But you really are like an actual brother to me. Like I see you very often. There are times where like I feel bad about asking you for things, but I'm like, stop feeling bad. He's your brother, and you'll do the same for him, just like he would for you. And I'm like, okay. So I ask you sometimes, and I'm like, I know he's gonna say yeah, but maybe he doesn't want to say yeah. But I have to get over that because that's a guilt thing, and I'm like, but he's got your back. He loves you. He's your brother. This is what brothers are like him.
It can't even be a guilt thing because you've known a lot, and maybe in another podcast we're gonna go deeper. But besides my twin brother, nobody as a brother asked me. So when you ask, I'm like, I'm in. But because we're brothers, I'm not gonna. It's not just like I'm not gonna say no, but I'm a brother, so I have to. It's not like I have to, but I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna do this. Yeah. Like this, just because you're my brother. But I've told a lot of people, it's not just like my brother. Everybody's like, oh, that's my boy. Like you're my boy, and I have my boys. But we're together so often. It's a relationship that I probably I don't think we both expected.
No,
we
right.
both have a lot of similarities in our attitudes. We pushed through whatever we had to push through, and look at us sitting down podcast. Again,
cheers, brother.
Probably things you never thought you were gonna hear. Like you said, things are happen at certain times, but I love you. You are my brother. Let's see where this future takes us. This was a rough year. I mean, wedding ended at a solid spot where we were in a good mood now. But from here on out, I mean, we're gonna have to push into something different.
I think from here we're clear now, because I know my year wasn't rough. My year was just stressful and busy. Your year was rough because you were getting over the death of your mom, and I think, and I've told you multiple times, but I mean, I think other people could learn a lot from you. In that sense, my mom isn't dead.
But that's the thing we have to sit down and an actual podcast was because you, and I know it's going to be one of those things. It's going to get videoed. I'm going to end up crying, but we ended up talking about, you started something with the death of my mom, the death of Dolly.
Yes.
So we're going to have to get into that because I think that's where not just my story, but your part of your story of how you came across it is going to end. So we'll have to get deeper into it. And again, tears, crying, whatever, it's going to happen. But at this point, I mean, it's not, I always say I don't care, but I care about it, a lot of things. But I don't care. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to cry. Everything's going to come out. But we have to kind of finish that part of the chapter.
Yeah, no, for you guys don't know what he's talking about because I didn't actually make anything of it, but his mom passed away, and I jumped in immediately and was like, I have to like help out with this. And so my mom's alive. The only real close death I've had to me is my nana, my mom's mom. And at that time it was, I was young and I was angry at her and my mom's side of the family for a family thing that involved my little brother, and I was protecting my little brother. So I kind of pushed all that away. Years later I felt bad, but then I kind of understood, like, it's okay, man. You were a young guy, like, you were protecting your brother. Then my grandpa passed away during the COVID thing when doctors were lying about about COVID deaths and basically taking credit for COVID deaths by, oh yeah, COVID killed this old man. But no, my grandpa passed away because he was unhealthy. He had diabetes. He wasn't eating well. He was 80 or 81, I think. I mean, that's pretty long life. But of course, the U.S. government took credit for a COVID death so they can scare the shit out of everybody else and make it seem like this COVID thing was just murdering people, whatever. So I never had like my mom or my dad. I'm not close to them anyway, but like I know it affected you in a very hard way, obviously, because you were so close to your mom, and your mom was your mom. Like, she was a real mom, like the mom where like you are like, you couldn't really imagine a life without her around. And I remember when she first got real sick and everything went down, I remember you and I we had just at that point where we were really close, and I was like, oh man, this is weird because I want to help out, but it's like I don't have that relationship with my mom. So I was just trying my best. And I remember going through that process where I was like, I feel like I understand death and what it means. I understand because I've gone to some places in my mind when it comes to death, whether it's individual death, like death of who you were and who you are now, is there's a separation there. And then allowing people to die in your life and not grasping onto them, not being so attached to who they were, and understanding that you being so upset for a year straight and being like, it's not fair that they had to die and all this stuff. And it's like, it was their time. Like, you have to let them go. You can't be like, because to me it was always, and I'm not even talking about you. I'm talking about how I looked at my nana and how I looked at my grandpa and how I looked at other people who have had people die, where I'm like, it's almost selfish to be like, they ruined my time by passing away. I'm upset. I'm bothered. Like, when people hold on, like, I want to keep my grandma hooked up to this thing for 2 more years because I can't imagine a life without them. You think your grandma wants to be living that life where she's hooked up to a fucking tube for 2 more years? It's like, let her go. She did everything this is my mindset. Everything she needed to do in life, she did it all. She already made her impact. Let her go, because I don't look at death as the end of something where it's like, oh, well, I mean, it is, but I don't look at it like your life's over, that consciousness is over. I think you go on to somewhere else. I believe in reincarnation. I believe that you are released out of this place called Earth, where you're bound to certain things. You have to stop when you need to stop, and you can't be this, and there are limits, and you go somewhere else where you're sort of limitless, and you're like, wow, I did these great things, and you can be happy for that person to go. And the natives have such a different way of looking at death. You mourn, but then you get over it, and you're like, hey, it's part of life. People die, and then they come back as something else, or you can look at it like they're a part of the earth from now on. And because there's times where I've talked about it on many podcasts where I walk around and something slaps my ass and there's nobody around, and it's my nana. I know it is. I know her spirit is around, and I'm like, that's what my nana used to do. My little fat ass was walking around when I was 8 years old, and she would just slap me on the ass, and so whenever I feel that, and it's my nana. So I was like, I felt the duty to at least try to help Paul and, help
Yeah.
you out with whatever I can do to help out, because I feel like I understand the process because it hasn't happened so close to me yet in this, except for me. Like, I feel like I've died. I feel like I've died
Yeah.
multiple times. I've had these deaths of who I thought I was and
Yeah.
who I was programmed to be. Those people died away, and I had to mourn those deaths for a little bit because it's hard. It's hard to go from being the person you were, the person you were told you should be, to being the person who you really are and who you actually are, and you pull all the veils away and you wipe all the bullshit away, and you're like, oh my god, I've been looking through this lens of horse shit for 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I felt I needed to be protective, and I wasn't making anything up. Like, I feel like I really understood where you were coming from because of I listened to you. I listened to what you were saying, and I was like, okay, so we need to have this situation where we understand what that means, that your mom's out of here. Your mom, she's gone, and it's like, is she really gone? Is her body's gone? But I mean, she was in pain for a lot of the end of her life, and it's like, do you want her to be in pain longer, or do you want the pain to be gone and still know that she can still be around in spirit? And and you've told me you felt it. Like, there's times where you know that she's there, and you're like, this isn't it? It's so much better to know that she's there in spirit than her body to be stuck here. And so that was to me, that was an important thing. Was like, let's turn this into art somehow. Let's make, and what's great is you've used that for your Reiki business. And when you did Reiki after, you told me that you're like, it's like she's in the room now. And she gave you a blessing before she passed away. She said she was so proud of you for being a healer, because your family was sort of, ostracized in your main family group for being the ones who didn't follow the Catholic beliefs and didn't go into that route, and you guys did your own thing, and you still kept up with the native stuff, and that was something that was sort of foreign to everyone else. And so she was so proud of you for keeping the native stuff alive, using it in your Reiki business, and helping healing people, because it's something she said that she would have loved to have done, but she never got to that part of herself. So it's almost like you doing what you do is closing out that chapter of her life, being like, hey, you know what? I didn't do it, but at least I raised someone who went that route. Like, I put that into somebody else.
And even mentioning some of that, and right now, I don't feel the need to cry. And I'll tell you right now is that I can, and a tear comes down. But what happens also is, and I think we mentioned this either the last podcast or probably the one prior to that, was that the way I learned it was sometimes we have tears, or sometimes we cry, but it's not even our tears. It's not even us that are feeling. It could be just her. So whatever you're saying, this could be her tears saying somebody's finally understanding.
They get it.
Yeah. So now we get it, but at the same time, like I said, I get these tears. But there's a lot of times it happens. Like, I could sit there and I feel a heaviness, and tears come out, and I'm not crying, but the heaviness sets in, and I'm like, why is this happening now? But I can understand why this is happening now, because of her.
Yeah.
But it's more, I think right now for me, it's more of her saying, all right.
Actually, she's sitting with us right now.
Yeah.
She's like, somebody gets it finally. Because I feel like from the stories you told me, your mom had to be super extra tough because of the environment.
Hard ass.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about my nana. My nana had to be tough because of she grew up in East LA too, just like your mom did. Well, I mean, I don't know if she grew up there, but that's where you were raised. Mm-hmm. And so my nana she left school at 13 and helped raise her brothers. She was the oldest. So that's a tough world to live in. How many of us can be like, yeah, at 13 I left school, left all that stuff everyone else does at 13, and became a mom? Like, that's fucking wild. So she just had to be tough. She was tough because out of necessity to keep her family alive. And that's stuff that most of our generation, your generation, the younger generations couldn't understand, because it's not like that anymore. Yeah. People don't have to do that. There are other routes, and families feel, like her mother couldn't, like her nowadays, mothers, it's harder for them to just leave and bounce, because everyone's going to find out. There's social media. You can track all that stuff. Back then, people were like, I'm out. I'm leaving. Fuck it. I'm out. I'm a ghost. You'll never know me again. So she had to become the mom. And so there's that toughness that we are not used to. And it's like they a lot of those people bottle up all those emotions because it's weakness, or they think it's weakness to show that side of them, because they've been forced to be so tough. And there's so many tough people in my life, my dad included, that I understand never had the opportunity to show the softness because they viewed softness or vulnerability as weakness. And I've talked to men, a lot of men before, about understanding that vulnerability is not weakness. Softness is not weakness. The holding back and stubborn idea, that's weakness. Being stubborn. There's a lot of times where being stubborn helps you out. Helps you out in business. Helps you out when you are very passionate about something. But there's most of the time the stubborn idea, to me, in my perception, the stubbornness holds you back from growing and being at what is really tough. I don't think real toughness is being someone who could beat everybody else up or being physically strong. Those things are tough at several levels, and I think they're necessary for most men. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's the end of toughness. I think toughness is being able to be vulnerable and showing that other side of you. And in this sense, it's awesome that you can understand or at least feel that your mom is here living through you right now, and that she's like, yeah, your mom didn't leave. Her body left, but your mom didn't leave. Right. She's still here, and she's like, thank God that that there's somebody talking about me in a way that gets me, because he gets, like, I get that personality. I get the idea. I get who she is and where she came from. I get it. And not that I lived it. I didn't live it. I'm not taking credit for being a hyper intelligent person, but I can put myself in other people's shoes, and I feel like that's what it is. It's the fact that, like you don't, and it's mostly because I've been on the other end of that. I've been the asshole. I've been the mean person. I've been the shit talker. I've been the grumpy person. I've been the closed-minded person. I've been the person that doesn't see from anybody else's perspective. I've been the person who hates the idea of magic. I've been the person who hates the idea of real spirituality and and spirits and anything that doesn't make sense, that's not black and white. I've been that person. And I think the only way you can be both is by living both mindsets and understanding that it's not all just one answer. And I think you and I have, like, what I love about you is we've talked for hours and hours and hours. There's times you come over to our apartment and we just talk. Podcast. No, not even. This is nothing. This is this is like this is the show. This is like this is a performance. Yeah. But like you and I have talked for, I don't know, 300 hours just talking. Like you come over sometimes just to talk. Like you've told me before, you've come over because you're like, I just want to talk to you. Like because you and I get each other so much better than most other people. Most other men get their best friend, I think, because most of the time there's a lot of, we talk about, these guys are going to talk about sports, they're going to talk about their family, and they're going to talk about politics. That's cool. Nothing against that. You should talk. I'm for people talking as much as possible about whatever. But then you got to go. I think when you go deep underground, that's where you feel you find the real gold of, like, really learn about who somebody is.
Even talking about sports or family, and like, again, like everybody's going to talk about it, but when we talk about it, we go just that little bit deeper because especially for somebody with me, and when I'm trying to get to understand something that I'm going through, you definitely give me the aspect from what you're seeing, but it helps me because I need to bring that part out so I can understand why it's happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I mean, we've had many hours, and I mean, at this point, I mean, I had quit drinking for a while, but we've had many shots because it's like, dude, we broke it. Like, like for me, I'm like, yes, this, now I finally got it.
I was gonna bring that up too, because I'm glad you talked about it, because you brought up the other day that, like, there was a time where you stopped drinking, and I remember, like, a little part of me was like, oh, that sucks, because I'm not the kind of person that pushes it on anyone. I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna be drinking around him. Like, I'm not gonna stop drinking. I like drinking. I like having a drink here and there. And you've been drinking a lot lately, and I don't mean a lot in a way where, like, not in one sitting, but a lot more than we used to. And what I have seen is exactly what I was excited to see, was that you don't look at, like, you're not like, oh, I shouldn't drink. You're like, what you've told me recently is that you're drinking because you have been able to let go of this, like, tight thing that tells you not to do things because you're doing something wrong. You're like, why do I feel like I'm doing something wrong? I'm just having a drink. Like, what's wrong with that? And again, I've never seen you wasted before. I don't ever. Like, you're always in control. I'm like, I've been drunk around you. I've gotten fucked up to where I feel like shit the next day.
At your wedding, I had more than I should have.
You have an incredible constitution.
But I was totally in control, and when something happens, I guess for that day, I mean, some people are gonna understand. I don't have a chance to catch a buzz.
No, it's weird. That's what I'm saying.
It's
You have like an
weird.
incredible constitution. Like you don't get fucked up. And I'm like, it's wild to me, but I don't know. It's like, it's weird. But at the same time, what I like is that, again, you don't feel bad about it anymore, which you started to for a while. And I'm like, why? You don't do anything wrong. You're one of the good ones. You don't get fucked up.
Yeah, I don't.
But then also it's like, you've told me that it's been easier for you to access how you really feel about your mom passing away when you got a little buzz, because you're more willing to kind of be like, hey, you know what? I'm sad. I'm going to let it out. I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm not going to be held. I'm not, because sometimes when you're sober, you get too in your head. Not you, but just people in general.
I stood away from it when she passed away, because most people, when somebody passes away, automatic, you're going to get drunk.
They go down the bottom of the bottle.
That's what happens. And that I know how it's happened many times in the family with family members.
Mm-hmm.
This time I stood away from it. I wanted to feel how it was going to feel.
That was a year ago, right?
It was a year ago, but even throughout this whole year, even Alicia my wife just kept saying, you need to start like processing how you're feeling.
Yep.
And it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. Finally, one night, I can't remember what it was. I remember texting you, and I remember
you sent me a picture.
Was it?
I think you sent me a picture of what you're drinking. You're like, cheers, brother. And I was like, oh, dang.
It might have been her anniversary. And if it was her anniversary, it was in November.
Yeah, it broke it open.
So I ended up having a drink, and Alicia was in school, and I finally said, you know what, I'm going to have a drink. It was 1 year already. So when I had it, that's when it happened. And I was like, shit, I was staying away from it because of this, but it helped me to loosen up, open up the door, and everything. I started feeling everything that night. And
You're
it was
playing the music,
it's what I wanted.
Playing the music, putting yourself in that same position of,
right.
This is how it was when mom was around. This is what we groove to, and it hurts, but you have to do it. You have to go through that hurt. So many people are afraid of the hurt, and I get it. No one wants to feel hurt. Yeah. You got other shit going on in your life, but you have to go through it. You have to sit in your shit. Yeah. You have to cry it out. You have to sit there and just feel the pain, the daggers, just feel it all.
And I didn't get drunk. And that was the thing, because everybody always wants to it wasn't about getting drunk.
Nah.
It was more of
releasing your inhibitions, maybe?
Yeah, probably, because you want to like relax your body, and sometimes especially somebody like me, you still kind of hold, like, you want to be the strong guy, and you got to let it go. And that night I was like, I'm letting it go. I'm gonna have me a couple drinks, and I didn't have a couple. I only had one drink, and that drink was the one that did it. And I was like, this is what I wanted to feel. This is how I needed to release. And I released. There was crying. There was laughing. And I was just by myself.
Yeah.
If somebody walked in the fucking door, they would be like, this guy's crazy. This guy's crazy. He's crying. He's laughing. And it was just me going through what I had to go through. But it was the perfect night. I ended it on a solid note. And I was like, cool.
Because to most people, doing that is crazy. Like, because we're not taught. We're not taught. And the government and society and movies don't want you to... They teach you that that's a bad thing, and it's like, no, it's not. You need to go. You need to have a night every now and then where you just let it all. You act like a fucking weirdo. You get weird. You cry. You laugh hysterically at nothing that's around you. I mean that's why I've always advocated for safe, mushroom, like taking mushrooms, because mushrooms put you in a weird spot where whatever you're avoiding puts it right in your face, and you're dealt. And I don't think. And again, because I've talked to several people in the last year about mushrooms, and I'm an advocate if you are in a safe environment and you take a safe amount. I'm not saying go party and get blasted, but that's one of those things where it's like, there should be nights where when you're feeling not all that great that you unleash in some way. Some of us it's music, some of us it's watching certain movies, some of us it's going to a place that brings this out in you. Sometimes it's hanging out with family, sometimes it's maybe you need, like, I haven't had this in a long time because I have kids and I'm trying to be the best dad as possible. But for me, it used to be like, I used to, drink and listen to music by myself. And like, I'm talking like Alice in Chains, Tool, especially, like bands that go real deep in emotions and stuff, and just sing your balls off while you're drunk and just let all that come out of you. Like, I love those nights. I have that in the shower pretty much. And that's about it. Like, because it's like, I'm trying to be the best dad possible, so I'm like, I don't have those kind of single night. And like, where am I gonna go that I'm alone? But I think for people that don't have kids, if you're going through something, you need to sit in it. You sit in your shit and deal with it. Like, whatever you're afraid of, go after it. If you need to be alone, be alone. If you need to be with your best friend, be with your best friend. If you need to be with your husband or wife, be with your husband or wife. If you have that friend or cousin that gets you there, that gets you, that understands you, that you can be vulnerable with, get in an environment where you can completely open up and do all the things that you could not do out in public or around anybody else. Get as weird as possible without hurting other people or hurting society, and get weird. Don't, you know what I mean? And I'm saying, you know, let loose on that level. Like, you know, cry it out, laugh it out. You know, if you got to be in the bathtub curled up into a ball crying, do that. Whatever it is, you have to do it, because the longer you hold on, the more time you're wasting, and the longer you're holding on to that little piece of your heart that's just, there's a little ball there. Like, you have to let go. And I've done it. I've done it multiple times. I've done it with Rocio. I've done it alone. I've done it out in nature with mushrooms. I mean, I didn't cry my eyes out that day, but I let out some shit. I was angry, and even if it's anger, go somewhere where you can scream as loud as you can. Get in your car and listen to metal. Fucking scream your face off. That's what I do sometimes, and it helps you get to a place where you're not this mild-mannered fake person anymore. You're a real human being. You're supposed to express yourself. Part of being a human being is expressing yourself at the highest level, who you are. Even if you don't know what that is, you need to. Even if whatever gets you hyper, whatever gets you crazier than any other situation, go do that. As long as you're not hurting people or society, go do that. Because we don't need a bunch of people around in society that are a little balled up fake version of who they really are. We need, especially right now with all the, and we're not gonna get too far down the rabbit hole. You all see that what's going on in the government is horseshit at this point. Like, it's not real. The whole, if you're a super hardcore Republican, a super hardcore Democrat, you're still not getting it. And I mean, I'm not talking shit about the Republicans or Democrats. I feel like a lot of my feelings about families always sway to the Republican side, but I think that's natural. But I'm not a Republican. I didn't vote for anybody. I don't think it's ridiculous to me. But you see what's happening. Like, that part of society doesn't care about you. So you need to figure these things out on your own. You don't need to be this buttoned up great member, this great citizen like society tells you to be. You need to be a human with your own issues and your own way of expressing yourself. I hope that most of you become an artist in some way. Find out whatever your art is and put it out there, because now's the time. We don't need a bunch of people acting like great citizens right now. We need artists. We need people opening up and teaching people about stuff. We need people talking. We need people getting wild and learning about themselves. And we need people crying to make themselves better. We need people breaking themselves down to build up better. We need, solve et coagula. We need people to break themselves down to become real again and whole again. And I don't think attaching yourself to a political party is going to get you there. I think figuring out who you really are and what makes you tick, and not worrying so much about what your friends and family think, and just be the best version of you. And when you do that, the realness will come to you. The real people will come to you, and everyone else will get weeded out. You want to get rid of the shit in your life? Be the best version of you, and watch whatever leaves. That's the people that aren't meant to be around you. The non-realness. And nothing against those people. They just aren't really there for you. They aren't going to match up for who you are. But what will come to you is the people that really care about you. Who will come to you are the people that really care about you, and the situation and the lifestyle that really matters to make you the best version of you. That's what we're talking about when we say get vulnerable, get weird, get creepy, do some stuff that's makes you feel uncomfortable. As long as you're not hurting people or society, that's the route we need to go. That's what we're missing in society. We can talk all day long about all the conspiracy theories that have come true that aren't conspiracy theories. We could talk all day long about what the government is doing. We could talk all day long about how they're tracking us with digital currency and how they're tracking us with all of our phones and smart everything. But are we doing anything about it? No, we're not doing shit about it right now. We're all just talking. So if we're just going to sit around and talk and go, yeah, did you see that about... And I do it too. I'm not talking shit. I do the same thing. I go, hey, did you hear what happened with the... But I'm not doing anything about it. So the thing I am doing something about is making myself the best possible version of me, the most close to who I really am, the closest to what my spirit wants, and who... That's what I'm trying to do. That's where I want to be, and I hope that the rest of you do the same thing. I hope the rest of you go try to find out who you really are. And some of you are not going to like this. You weren't put here to be a Dodger fan or a Raider fan, or you weren't put here to be I'm the biggest fan of this celebrity. You are not here to be a fan. It's okay to be a fan. I like watching MMA. I like watching UCLA Bruins play football. I don't watch all the games, but I try to. I'm not saying it's wrong to be a fan, but don't tie your entire identity into being a fan of something. You need to be the one who does something. If you love football but you can't play it, find something else that you are participating in. Be the king of your own castle. Be the queen of your own castle. Do something that is you. You weren't put here to be a fan of a celebrity. Oh, I'm the biggest fucking Bad Bunny fan. Whoever the fuck that is. I've heard that name. I don't know who that is. Oh, he's a great. What about you? You weren't put here to be a great member of society and to be a fan. You were here to be you. Who the fuck are you? Who are you? You right there and you right there. Who are you? You're a fan of something? Oh, my whole life is I'm a Dodger fan. What the fuck does that even mean? The Dodgers don't know you exist. You don't matter to them except that you're putting money in their pocket. Nothing against the Dodgers. They found out who they are. Those baseball players feel like they were put here to be baseball players. So they're doing that. You're not here to be a salesperson. You're not here to be a fucking, I'm a plumber. Cool, great. I appreciate you helping out with society, but what are you here to do? What is your art? What is your passion? What gets you on fire? Maybe it's being a fan. I get that, but it's like, don't tie your identity to that. I want you all to have your own thing. And, I'm not some celebrity either. And I did this podcast because I feel like this is my passion and this is what I'm doing. If I never get to the point where I make a living off this, which I will, but if I never get to the point where that happens, I'm going to keep doing it because this puts me on fire. It's my thing. It's a thing that makes me different. It's my art. It's my passion. It's what I'm here to do. And I am a fan of other things, but I'm obviously not fighting in MMA. I'm not an MMA commentator. So I figured out what it is that I do, and I want everybody else to have that in their lives. And sometimes it's serving society. Sometimes it's giving back to people. That's fine. I just don't want people to tie their entire identity into being a fan of something or being vicarious, living through somebody else. That is not the life to live. Live through your own life. Even if you want to be the best parent ever, be the best parent ever. But don't tie your every single feeling about how good you are as a person to how good of a parent you are, what your kids do. You still have your own life. You still have a thing. You have a duty to society. You have a duty to yourself. You have a duty to your spirit and your consciousness to do something. Go do something. Don't sit around, hey, I'm a fat dad and I'm supposed to just watch sports and pay the bills. What the fuck? Like, everybody does that. That doesn't make you cool or special. Everybody does that. That's what society wants you to do. That's what the government wants you to be, a fat fucking dad, so that they can always look at dads as fat fucking dads. You were programmed in the 90s to watch Married with Children and think that life was all about being Al Bundy, a grumpy old man who... Remember high school? Like, and I love that show. I think it's hilarious. I think Ed O'Neill's awesome. I'm not talking shit, but the truth is that was part of that was programming. Family Guy is a big fat idiot dad. Homer Simpson is a big fat idiot dad. You are being programmed. Step out of that world and do something on the side. Do your own thing. And if I just feel like we've been programmed to think that, and money is king. So we all think, why would I waste my time doing a passion if I'm not getting paid for it? Maybe you will get paid for it one day. Maybe passion means more than money. Maybe, like, you can't take your money anywhere when you die. You don't, well, what about my kids? Well, your kids are going to be fine. If you raise them right, they can make their own money. If you give them confidence, they'll be okay. They don't need your money. No child needs your money. Yep. If you raise them right. That's my opinion. I think children, if they were raised in a supportive environment and they're taught to have confidence and they were given the green light to follow their dream, they're gonna make money. Yep. We don't need to tie everything to, well, I set them up. I made sure to have money saved for them. What if they blow all that fucking money in a year? What if they blow the money in 2 weeks? You set them up to blow money. Good job. And I understand why. I'm not talking shit. Like, I get it. That's what we've been conditioned to think, is we need to take care of our people with money. And it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. And it is good to have money. I'm not against having money. I'm not against giving your kids money. But I think showing your kids that you did your thing, that you went after your passion, that you followed your own path, I think that's so much more important for the kids being raised. I'm excited for my kids. My kids, they talk about my podcast all the time. Even Rose tells people that my dad does podcast. I don't tell her anything. I don't tell her what to say. I don't want her. I don't give a fuck if she says anything about me except I love my dad. That's all I care about. Yeah. But I know one thing for goddamn sure. This is 100% true. My kids are gonna grow up and be like, yo, my dad was doing these cool ass podcasts when I was a little kid, and he had cool people on, and he did his thing, and he never bowed down to any fucking government regulation. He didn't, he wasn't bought out by anybody. Like, I know they're gonna be like, dude, my dad was cool, man. My dad was talking to these cool ass people. My dad was saying these controversial things. My dad was putting himself out there, saying awkward things, and losing friends and losing people because he was not willing to let this pass by, and he did his fucking thing. And I hope that the rest of you can have that same thing with your children or your family, or your friends, or your cousins, or your aunt. I mean, I just feel like that's important in this world, and I figured that out for myself. Maybe it's not important for you, but I hope it is one day.
Yep.
So Jesus Christ, this is supposed to be like a short one, and it's I mean, we did the damn thing, Paul. It's mostly me, of course. Me just rambling.
That's all right. I like coming here. We always have a good conversation. Shit comes out. It
does, and
that's what we do.
I love it. And I'm glad I got this out, because I've been fucking garden hosed up, just been like
I know
pinched, like just because I could have done podcasts in the last 2 months, but I'm like, this wedding is so important, and I know Rocio doesn't want me to. I don't want her to feel like I was, doing my own thing instead of helping out. And I was like, hey, babe, 100%. Like, I am so 100% soldiered out to her and my kids that I'm like, whatever we need to do, I'll put all my shit aside, and it's gonna bug me for a while. But
hey, I'm not gonna say anything, but I was right behind you. Hey, whatever Rocio wanted in these past 2 months, I was.
No, I
was there. I was like, whatever she
every
wants.
day. So, again, shout out to Rose. Her birthday's coming up, third birthday. I'm so proud. Thank you for everything you've done for me, Rose. And it's exponential. Like, she's just like, I see the things she does like every day, and I'm just like, I'm so fucking lucky, man. Yeah, like, she's so cool. Like, Rose is so cool. She's smooth. She's like everything you want from a daughter, in the sense of like, she just says all these little cute things that just melts me. Like, any heart exterior I have gets melted, because she's just so money. Like, she's just so like, calm down, tough guy. Let me help you out. She's so tough and independent, and I'm like, I just want to help you. And she's like, back off. I'm like, damn, she's already like a teenager. But then at the same time, she just shows me mad love. She tells me how much she loves me, and gives me hugs, and rubs my beard. And I'm like, oh, I get all the soft stuff, that I didn't have with any other. Yeah. I didn't grow up with little girls, so it's weird. I'm like, oh, try not to fuck up. And so shout out to her. Shout out to you for happy birthday. I know, it's been an interesting year. Rough emotionally, but it needed to happen. And I think you're a much better person, much stronger person than you were before. And now she's here, your mom. And it's, she's with your dad now. So that's cool. They got reunited again in spirit. So they're partying. All the music you tell me that this one's for my mom. And I'm like, dude, they're fucking dancing their ass off wherever they are.
For sure.
They're going at it. And, I just appreciate everything you've done and who you are, and that I have a brother that like understands me, because I always felt like I love my little brothers, but they didn't understand me, and I don't expect them to. My youngest brother started to for a little while, and he's doing his own thing. So I have a brother now that gets me, gets who I am, and has seen where my mind has gone and all the ups and downs of the last 5 years or so. And cheers to the wedding, and cheers to you, and cheers to doing this shit again, and new beginnings, brother.
Yes, sir.
So thank you guys for listening to this episode. I want to do a lot more. If you guys are into the whole camera thing, we have it now. We have the capability. So let me know if you want to be on the show. Mouthpiece Moment podcast. You can check me out on Instagram at LANCE_URIBE. That's my personal page. The podcast page is at mouthpiece_moment_podcast. You want to check Paul out? You want to give your Instagram?
I don't even have it ready.
Okay, it's at Paul_Vasquez_369.
Once I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I'll tag it on here. We're a couple drinks deep and 3 hours deep in the conversation, so sometimes we forget stuff. But check us out there. Again, shout out to Ramirez Bartending Company. Big things in 2023. New menu. Check them out at Ramirez Bartending Co. on Instagram. CO is what I mean by Co. Thank you again, Eric and Eric and Amanda. Great time. Amazing people.
Yes.
I really can't wait to hang out with them. I mean, they're probably gonna be busy every fucking weekend because they're so dope. But hopefully we can sneak. We're gonna have to just like hire. You know what's funny? I pictured a podcast episode with like 8, 9, 10 people on it. I don't know. I just had this picture in my mind of this big podcast with a bunch of people on it. I saw Eric and Amanda in the background bartending it, but participating too. So I might have to do something like that in like a bigger episode with a lot of people on it.
I will say, I've seen a bigger podcast, and then not just a podcast. It's more of people sitting around. We're all having a good conversation of just a bunch of subjects.
Yeah, like letting whatever just whatever comes up come up. And
Yeah.
I mean, my thing is, from what the work I've done, like I can hang in that environment and I can control it and get to a point where I'm like, okay, I can work with that. We just have to get a bunch of people to show up to one place and actually show up on time and actually be prepared and actually open up. And so we'll get to that point, but I'm just glad we're back doing it again. And so shout out to Ramirez Bartending Company. Shout out to LDM Photobooths at LDM_Photobooths. You guys, if anyone's into that whole idea of having a photo booth, it's awesome. Great backdrop. The actual camera part of it's really small. It doesn't take up a ton of space. Looks very like futuristic. It's got this cool. It's lit up and it has all that. And so Desiree and Michael are just awesome people. I didn't even bring this up really real quick because I started to talk about it, but because I played that song for the what the fuck is it called? The garter removal, the Texas flood by Stevie Ray Vaughan. That was the day I met Desiree's husband, Michael. I never met him before, and so I walked back to the table afterwards, and he just tells me, he's like, bro, like, or I don't know if he said bro or whatever, brother, or, hey man, what's up? He's like, just the fact that you had that song playing, he's like, we're like best friends now. He's like, you just made a new best friend. I never met him, and he was just so he's a musician. He's actually, from what I've been told, he's a musician. So like that's his life is music. So he was just like, dude, I went to a wedding, and you know the groom chose a Stevie Ray song. He chose Texas Flood. He's like, we're best friends now. So I mean, we got to kick it with that dude too. So
Now I want to hang out with him a little bit.
Me too. I'm
because,
just like,
you know, especially musician. He knew, again, we've talked. We've been listening to more blues lately together. So yeah, oh man, I can't wait to hang out with this guy and see what he does. Shout
out to Ramiro Gaitan again, our photographer from Gaitan Productions in San Dimas, California. Again on Instagram at Gaitan Productions, Gaytan Productions. If you don't know how to spell productions, Google it. His website is gaitanproductions.com. Shout out to you. Shout out to Rose. Shout out to Baby Jesus on his birthday coming up in a couple of weeks. I love all you guys for listening. I appreciate everything. Any shout outs you got?
No shout outs this time.
All right, man. Hey, listen, everybody. I'm glad you all. I'm glad we're back. Please hit me up if you want to be on the show. Please tell me the dates you want to be on the show, and what you. I mean, a lot of people ask me, what are we going to talk about? I don't know. I know what I'll do is I'll figure out who you are, and we'll go from there. Don't worry about anything. If you want to talk, you want to be this open, you want to be vulnerable, you want to be on a podcast, you want to promote something, let me know. I'm open. Nobody owns my podcast except me. Nobody tells me what to do, and no one tells me what kind of podcast I'm going to have. This was supposed to be, it was set up as probably like an hour long. Let's talk about the wedding, get back into it, check out the cameras, and it's been fucking 3 hours. So I don't know what's going to happen, okay? I have a big mouth, but I want to talk to people who want to talk. And if you can't talk, but you have something to say, I'll do all the talking anyway. So just fucking show up, okay? Love you guys all. Tell everyone about this episode and let me know I love you all. Bye.